Now I'm going to roll 12A as well.
Which one's 12A? Your
12A was the ordinance update discussion. I can move that. Yeah, we'll move it to next meeting. So any other additions, deletions, or withdrawals? Hearing none? Sorry? Yeah, sure.
You're asking to pull it?
so the
Give me one moment.
the village attorney and I would like to both, the village attorney and I would both like to pull the PBA agreement. Al, I can't hear you. I'm sorry.
I'm just trying to find the number. So it's 9B,
And B?
Resolution 2024-43, approving the PBA collective bargaining agreement.
You're pulling it?
You need to pull it. There's some information that we're lacking for the commission that we need to obtain.
Yeah, we hope to have that information by the December agenda, put it back on for December.
Asking that you pull that from the agenda.
At 9B, what's that? To December. 9B? B.
9B as in
B,
boy.
bravo.
Resolution 2024-43.
All right, thank you. Any other additions, deletions, or withdrawals? Going once, going twice. Okay, all right, so no further. So do I have a motion to approve the agenda as it's been amended?
I make a motion to move as the agenda is amended.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, okay. All right. So I think we're still working on trying to get the presentation up for Miami Country Day School. So I think we're going to jump down to we have it?
Is this the one that you emailed to us just a bit ago? I can't get it to open on my computer, so I haven't seen it. You did it?
Post disable participant screen sharing. If you disable that, I can ask.
I have it, but I can't move it over. I tried to move it over. And it's not
Okay, well, while we work on that, do we want to give you some extra time and just jump down to public comments? We can move that? Okay. All right, so while we're working on getting the presentation up for you folks, let's go ahead and go on down to public comment. So I'll open public comment for folks here in the village, in the log cabin first. Just remember, provide your name and address. We got it? Okay, all right. No.
We know. Yeah, but not. Period.
Here we go. Okay, so we're going to start with our presentation from Miami Country Day School.
It's Mr. Mayor and members of the Village Council. Tim Walsh, the Chief Financial Operating Officer, is here, and also with Chuck Sennett, who's the Athletic Director for Miami Country Day.
Mr. Walsh?
Great, thank you. Good to be here. Thanks for inviting us. What I wanted to do tonight is go through what we showed at the community outreach meeting we had a couple weeks ago. over at the church. Kind of give you a condensed version of that so you see where we are in our process. And then also, you'll see some changes to our campus or proposed changes that may help with maybe some of the field improvements you may be looking to make down the road. So with that, if I could go to the next slide. Great. So what we're showing here is a comparison of our current campus. So you'll recognize that we're in this triangle. You'll see kind of in the bottom corner our athletic field. We have an empty field right now, which was the old Leonard property, for those of you familiar with that. And then we have our Performing Arts Building and our World Languages Center that take us up toward the canal and the bridge. In the bottom bottom left-hand corner at the corner of 6th Avenue and 107th is where we have our construction project right now. We're building a new athletic center that will adjoin the current one. I think when I was here in May, we talked about that was something that we were entitled to do from 2015. And so we started construction on that in August. So we are anticipating a November 2025 completion date of that building at that corner. So we have, I think as I promised back in May, we're trying to be very diligent about our construction traffic, keeping it off the side streets. I have seen one construction vehicle on 108th Street, which we chased down and scolded pretty badly. But I would be curious if there's anybody's heard anything about construction vehicles going through your neighborhoods. They're not supposed to. What you see, if we could stay, that's okay. On the right is what we are preparing our entitlement package as we speak, and will probably be submitted, excuse me, to the county at the end of this month, early December. What you see here is what we hope the new campus would look like over time. So you'll see the athletic field has some buildings there. It's taking over part of our athletic field, but also that empty lot that I talked about, the Leonard property. That will be the location of our new upper school. We'll fundraise for that. We'll probably take a breath, but we're also going to try to get entitlement for a new middle school, which is that building right against the canal there. That it'll be a 2-story building. For those of you familiar with campus, it'll kind of hug the canal walk that we currently have. We'll take down our current upper school, and that'll make room for both the middle school and the upper school. If we go to the next slide, it goes into more detail as to what it might look like. So again, we're going to have the new athletic center in the bottom left corner. We're proposing an upper school that takes over our baseball and softball fields. So we're looking for field space. And then the second phase of our construction will be a middle school, which is that kind of dogleg building against the canal. Okay. Next slide, please. We wanted to show you that we are trying to do some things to 6th Avenue, in particular, buildings that are closest to you. It's probably been 2 years since we bought the Subway and convenience store buildings just north of, or actually kind of in the middle of our campus. So we kind of closed down those buildings, took down the signage. To be honest with you, we got rid of, a lot of the people who were using that store at various hours at night. We put a fence across there. Ultimately, that will, if we go to the next slide, you'll see that that'll be part of our campus with trees, and it'll probably be a parking lot in time, but from the road, you'll just see trees, shrubs, and some wall space. So we're going to get there, and that'll be pretty early. We think once we get the entitlement package done, that will be done fairly quickly. Next slide. This is just a view that we would have looking from 107th Street kind of back toward the upper school. So you're kind of looking across our playing field. This is a rendering that That would be the view from that part of Sixth Avenue. We go to the next one. And this is kind of looking east into the building. This will be the entrance to the new upper school. So right now, if you know where our double gates are, where traffic comes in, that will be the entrance that will replace it. And that'll be in the first phase of our project. So our timeline is to get the entitlement package in, cross our fingers, hope that that entitlement package gets approved within a year, 15 months. We would get the permitting done. We would hope to be able to start construction in 2026 with opening of the upper school in the fall of 2028. We've had one community meeting, as I mentioned before. We will have community meetings all along the way to kind of explain where we are in the process, certainly get feedback, et cetera.
Mr. Walsh, could you just check, make sure that microphone is on? Just give it a tap. It sounds like it is. Okay, just want to make sure. I appreciate it.
I just,
Yeah. Thank you.
should I start over? We want to have the communities involved in the conversation throughout the entitlement process. And so, meetings like this, ones that we're setting up, we'll probably do another one in early February. And that will, hopefully we'll have had the entitlement package submitted and we'll start to be able to get comment, et cetera. We're working very hard on traffic. It may not seem like it. I will tell you though, tomorrow we will start construction on our new surface lot. If we actually go to the next page, I think that's the view from those of you on the other side of the canal. We hope to do some beautification of the shoreline there. I think that there's a lot we can do to improve our sight lines from there. So we're going to work on that. So you'll see this on the left. It says existing. It's not quite true because that parking lot right against Sixth Avenue, that's kind of to the north of the entryway, that construction will actually start tomorrow. We will put the construction fence up. We'll start excavation, et cetera. It's probably going to take, because of all the drainage issues, et cetera, 3 to 4 months to complete. But once we do that, as we talked about back in May, that'll take 60 cars off of Sixth Avenue. And they'll queue up in there. So we'll have a total of about 93 cars that we can queue up. And we will have a much better process relative to traffic on Sixth Avenue. So
When is this expected, did you say? I'm sorry?
it should be done, we're hoping by March 1st, hopefully sooner, but yes. But we've got all the permits, so it's just a matter, we had a couple of events on campus today and yesterday and for Halloween that we needed that parking area, and now we're starting. So as I think I mentioned before, I go out and I observe traffic. Chuck observes traffic quite a bit. It's just uncanny. At any point in time, there's 15 cars from north to south and 15 cars. And so we get those cars off. We'll be able to do 2 flushes of that, maybe 3 of getting cars off. So it'll really make a significant difference in terms of the community traveling during peak times in the afternoon and the morning for that matter, but really in the afternoon, you'll see the difference. If we could go to the, actually, I'm sorry, I was only halfway done. So what we're going to propose, we showed you the entrance to the parking. We're going to have the same queuing lanes that we have, but we're going to have it done in a different way. So you may not be able to notice, but right now we have a kind of a single lane turnaround at the end of the canal for those cars. We're going to move that turnaround closer to Sixth Avenue, but we're going to have 3 lanes of traffic so we can move. The queuing stays the same. It's the same number of cars, but we'll be able to move cars. They won't be stuck waiting for students. We'll be able to move them around much easier. So that's what we're going to be proposing. Again, from a queuing standpoint, it won't make any really, it shouldn't make any difference to what's lined up on Sixth Avenue, but the flow within the school will be different when we build the upper school.
So Tim, when I looked at this, it looks like there's less stacking space, but you're saying because it's 2 lanes, it's actually
Yeah, it's
80
actually
more
3
linear
lane.
feet.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
That
we'll
was
be able
my-
to, so it's probably hard to see here, but you'll see a yellow line that's actually in the garage. And then you see a yellow line in front of our Performing Arts Center. There will be
Well,
2 drop-off and pickup areas, which we only have,
All leave on the north end.
yes. Yeah, this is just the north end. Nothing changes on the south end. But when we got our entitlement in April for the increased enrollment, it did not impact the back end.
Come and eat, babe. Giselle.
Okay, I'm going.
Okay.
We're not great with Zoom, Tim.
That's
Maybe
okay.
you could
Thank you,
have
Madam
one of
Clerk.
your 7th graders come over and teach us how to run it.
They can come to my office first. I think that's the last one. Yes. So if actually we could go back to the second or third slide. Second one. Yeah. So what you see here is that when we build, we're taking away our baseball and softball fields and also some field use that our lower school uses for our afternoon activities. A lot of our middle school practice area will go away. And so we are actively looking for field space. We talked to Commissioner Huntington. We've talked to the village manager and the director of rec about the possibility of working with you all to maybe use some field space here in Biscayne Park. Chuck, maybe you can talk more about what the needs are. We've not done anything other than had a casual conversation, and we just want to introduce the idea tonight, get your thoughts on the possibilities, and then, maybe the follow-up is for us to work with Al and put something concrete. So Chuck, why don't you talk about the needs?
Hi, I'm Chuck Sennett. I've been at Country Day 33 years. David Tesserta graduated in 1985, I believe. And is in our Hall of Fame. So the only reason I bring that up is if you've been around Country Day the last 34 years, the way our campus has transformed has been incredible. It's gone from a house in the middle of it and a couple older buildings to everything being updated. And what we're getting ready to do is impressive with a new upper school and some of the new buildings we're doing for our kids and for our education of our kids. It's amazing. What it's doing, though, thank you, Tim, is it's hurting our athletic program a decent amount with this new upper school building. If you look at the left, and you've been on our fields are incredible. We built this new athletic facility, turf field, in 2005. We have a gorgeous baseball field, a softball field, and then a main lacrosse, soccer, and football field. During football season, it's plenty of space. We have 2 teams, and we can house everything that we have in our current facility right now. In soccer season, if you looked at those fields, we have 4 soccer teams. It's tough currently for 4 soccer teams to practice and play on our existing field. Go to the spring, we have 2 baseball teams, 1 softball team, and 4 lacrosse teams that are all on the same field. And if you saw all of us practice at the same time, you'd go nuts, but it works. But as a baseball coach, I never have live BP because I never have a field on my own. So if you look at the new upper school next to it that we're building, we've now lost our baseball field, which we're working on a new location to have them transfer to. We've lost our softball field, which we're also working on another location. But we can't house 2 football teams, 4 soccer teams, and 4 lacrosse teams on one field. It's just impossible. And we're looking at other areas to hopefully help out, but we are in desperate need of practice time. Not game time. We would hold all our games there. We love having games on campus, but we have nowhere for our younger kids to practice once this new facility's done. So in our conversations, we're hoping that somehow we can create a partnership. I know it's been talked about maybe trying to beautify your facility, which is great. And for those that don't know, we used to practice here from 1999 to 2004. We had our soccer teams here all the time. We had our middle school baseball team that used to play on the field there. I coached it. So we've been here. We had a great partnership, but we didn't, once we had our field and moved everything on campus, it worked for us. But we're at a position now where we need help, we need field space, we need assistance, and we're trying to appease any way we can to you to maybe work out a partnership. So thank you and appreciate you taking the time.
Thank you.
Thank you both very much for the time, bringing this out to us and spending the time putting this together and keeping us briefed. I know we've talked about it, how important it is that we want to stay in touch and certainly be part of the conversation. Just very briefly, is the idea that kind of continue the roadshow, so to speak, of visiting community partners on a regular interval to kind of keep us posted?
Yeah, would love to. And we feel like these type of meetings and, as much as we can broadcast community meetings are the way for everybody to kind of hear what's going on and have input. So yeah, we would love to be able to come back at various intervals and talk to you all and kind of give you an update as to where we are and really hear if there's any concerns. I think, what Chuck was talking about is, there's probably we understand there's improvements you may want to make to your field. And if we can help with those as part of a partnership, we would certainly be open to discussions on that. So we certainly have a need.
Excellent.
Can I ask a question if it's okay? Sure. Do you have any updates
Can't hear
regarding,
you, Vero.
sorry, do you have any updates regarding any of the other streets surrounding Country Day in terms of changes? Last time we spoke about 111 went through some changes, and that was sort of what also changed a little bit the dynamics over there. How the school currently or it's planning to kind of take all the people out from school, where do they turn? Have you been on top with the county as to what other things are happening around the school for traffic?
Yeah, they had a community meeting in July we hosted for them, but the county, I think, is going to close down, I guess it's 111th.
Yeah.
111th. So that, I think they're going to do that permanently. That's
Yeah.
what they were indicating.
Yes.
They were talking about, and I haven't heard anything since then, they were in the discussion stages of putting a light at 110th Terrace.
Okay, yeah, that's what we spoke last time. I was wondering if.
But I haven't heard anything
Okay.
about that. And I'd want to understand, because that's the first left turn our
Yes,
students, faculty, staff can take coming out of the garage. So I worry about a line of cars coming across 6th, waiting for the light. I will tell you though, on the other hand, it is a mess coming down 110th Terrace at 3 o'clock, 3:30, and people trying to make left, just residents.
correct.
So I see both, but I haven't heard anything since then.
Okay.
We have put speed tables on 110th. We paid for that to happen as part of our entitlement. So there are 3 speed tables within each block on 110th Terrace.
Got it.
And they were completed in late September.
Yeah. All right. I was just wondering, I think just to be connected on that, because that also was part of the
Yep.
traffic effect that's
Yep.
happening with all the changes as well.
The one other thing that I think I mentioned in May was we have the school flasher that's kind of in the middle of our campus. It's right about where the athletic fields stop. We're working with FDOT. I'm not sure they want us to move it. So we're going to do whatever the county and FDOT, but it's an FDOT road. So that may not happen right away. But not because we don't want to do it, it's just
Yeah, the process will be longer, I'm sure.
so.
All right, appreciate the update.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes.
Can I ask
Yeah,
a
of
couple of quick things real quickly? Okay. First, perhaps we could ask these gentlemen to stay through public comment because the public is seeing this for the first time as well. And maybe some people want to make comment that they would like to hear. So if you guys could stick around,
Sure,
public comments
absolutely.
next. So a couple of things. Are you having the same, I know this is a very preliminary conversation. Are you having the same conversation with Miami Shores with their spaces?
We haven't at this point. We have talked to them about at one point they were looking at it, maybe a redesign of the golf course, and we were having some conversations there. We certainly will have conversations. They're very
About the
aware.
teams and
Yeah.
access to their.
We have not had specific conversations, but I've had conversations with the village manager and his team about our needs for athletic facilities and how we can make those work.
So will you be coming to us with a proposal?
Well, I think the short answer is
Specifically
yes.
Talking about the rec center.
Yeah, I think the short answer is yes, but I think we need to understand what you all want to do. So, and then what availability we'd have. So
You'll
once we,
talk to our manager about that. We'll figure out
Exactly.
Next steps. Okay.
Yep.
My sort of like the things that pop in my mind
Sure.
initially, our rec center, we have our own parking problems there as it is. So it doesn't take much for us to overflow our parking, and I'm going to get you guys to come here and you've seen it for yourselves. So the idea of us having large groups there, and I don't know how large these are. I don't know if buses would be involved with
Yep.
bringing people over, and if these would only be practice games or actual competitions where other schools would be coming. I don't know exactly. It's okay. You don't have to present it all right now.
It would just be for practice. We're
Okay.
only looking for a facility for our kids to be able to practice on. And we would bus them here, the bus would leave. And then when it's 5:30, 5:45, the bus would come back and pick them up. We've already talked about, if lightning or there's inclement weather, where they could go and stand under until we get a bus back. But
Understood.
the fact that we're only a 2-3 minute bus ride, we would not keep the bus here. No one would be allowed to pick the kids up here. No one would drive here. It would be a bus back and forth from our.
So my concern would be parking at the rec center, which is an issue already and which we're funding, and we've been making very slow progress on that. But that concerns me. And I know parents show up for practices, so I can just imagine scenarios where parents are coming to watch their kids practice on our field. And the rec center is public. It's open to anybody. So people it's not just for Biscayne Park residents. Obviously, we want to make sure Biscayne Park residents always feel like they have a place at the rec center for their kids to run and play games, and organized or not organized. So I'm sure that you'll be having conversations with our rec center manager as well. So my initial concerns would be parking and access for our residents to enjoy our own facility. And then, of course, traffic, which is always a concern. So something like this, I can just imagine the amount of traffic and buses and people showing up to watch and all of that. I'd want to make sure we're very mindful of all of that when you guys bring up proposal to us, because we're violating our own code in terms of parking now. So right now, we should be getting a violation every single day from our code manager who's on there. So we have issues with our parking. It's not adequate. It's not up to code. It's damaging trees. It's causing traffic snarls, and it's blocking sidewalks, and it can get really bad really easily. It doesn't take a big event to do that. So that's my big concern, is traffic and parking. So, but happy to look at what you guys bring back to us.
Thank you.
Jonathan, if I may. First off, Tim and Chuck, I want to thank you guys for coming. Thank you for thinking of us when you're talking about this partnership. During our conversation with ISA, there's obvious that there could be a plan there in place that benefits both parties. I know we've touched on both of Commissioner Kennedy's concerns that parking, you guys have a plan in place where you would bus the children in, you would take the bus out of the village and bring it back when you have to leave. As well as we talked with ISA that this plan would only work if no space was taken away from our current offerings. That was something that we were very adamant about, all of us together, when we had a meeting, is that we would not take any space from current offerings of soccer. I think no commissioner wants to see that. That we want to make sure that our offerings for our residents are covered, as well as taking care of you guys. So I'm excited to see a proposal come back. I hope the commission will agree to direct the manager to have those discussions and bring that back to us. And I'm excited to see what you guys have.
Tim, very briefly, last question, I promise. Very briefly, we touched on this in the past about a community board with the village having a seat on that to be kind of more directly involved. Is that something you guys are still considering?
So, we talked about, I think, soon after we came, I think our concern remains relative to a specific community board is just being fair to all the neighbors. So that's why we want to be more visible in the community. Having said that, I am happy to have, and Chuck is too, happy to have conversations at any time with anybody in the community. So I don't think we're comfortable, and not from a transparency standpoint, but just from a fairness standpoint, if 8 people are on a board, you know, what happens to the other, 2,500 people who might want to have information? So that's where we're struggling a little bit with it. So,
Understood. Okay,
but great. We'd love to talk at any point, though.
wonderful. Well, thank you, gentlemen, for coming in and presenting this to us. I'm sure we'll be paying attention, and look forward to hearing from you in the future.
Great. Thank you.
Thank
We'll
you.
just hang out.
Okay, great. So, all right, let's thank you again.
Mayor, we just need consensus for us to continue to have a dialogue with them.
Okay.
And to bring back a proposal.
Okay, do we have a consensus from the commission on that?
Yes.
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 It sounds like we have consensus. Thank you, Mr. Manager. All right, so having completed number 5, our presentations, let's go ahead and move into public comment. Going to open it up to folks here in the log cabin first. Please just remember to announce your name and address, and please remember to limit public comment to 3 minutes. And once we're done here, we'll move on to Zoom.
Trying to scoot up here first since we have a few helpers. My name is Stacy, and I have a helper here. Her name is Guinevere, and another one over here, Gideon. And
Address.
we live at 862 Northeast 111th Street. I'm here today because my daughter, Guinevere, she's in a Girl Scouts group, and we once a month have our meetings in Biscayne Park at the rec center. After Gideon, since he's in Boy Scouts, had his Pledge of Allegiance event here, one of the moms brought it up to my attention that it would be great to have the girls do a meeting here at the log cabin instead of the rec center, just one time to kind of see the historic building and get a little more inspiration before we go in the woods for one of our camping trips. So that said, we inquired about getting a waiver so we could have the girls meet here. It's around 45 minutes, the meeting. And when we got the information about the waiver, there was a fee associated with it. So we were just curious if we could waive that fee for this one-time Girl Scouts meeting in the near future when we do our once-a-month meetings.
So I'm going to abstain on this one, and I'll ask the rest of the commission if they'd be interested in waiving the fee for the Girl Scouts.
So, yeah.
Sure.
It's probably, that may fall under the city manager's purview for a nonprofit, and I'll be happy to waive the fee.
Okay, thank you.
Decided.
Are there any costs associated with a group being here and using the facility in terms of having police or anyone? No? Okay, because when I rented it, I got married here.
Oh, nice.
It was lovely. And I had to pay things, but there's no additional cost to the village? I'm fine with it.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
I think that's all. Thank you. We will get out of your hair.
You only. Is a reference.
I'll,
No, he'll just
as
have
far as
to.
scheduling goes, that'll be up to the manager and the clerk to take care of scheduling, so I'm sure staff will fall into that. Okay, thanks. Anyone else in the log cabin?
Barbara Kuehl, 111th Street. Just something, when I listen to the meetings online, most of the time you're not talking into your microphones and people can't hear you. So if, as a reminder, please speak into the microphones. Okay, last Thursday you had a meeting about selecting an interim city manager. And you had, the clerk gave you a short list of 5 candidates, and you almost instantly narrowed it down to 2 without having the other candidates speak. And you had the 2 candidates, Al Childress and Mr. Sid, and they gave their presentations. And very quickly, you voted to offer the position to Mr. Childress. it seemed to be going fine because the job was advertised for $100,000, but then Mr. Childress said he wouldn't do it for that price, and a price of $176,000 came up. The price that was advertised for $100,000 was without any benefits. It's an interim manager's position. It's not supposed to be long-term. We were going to move forward and start advertising, as you said, to hire a village manager. I didn't hear the commission really give a lot of opposition to that. In fact, kind of rationalizing about how, well, if we had given benefits, I guess that's where the price of $176,000 came up. And Mr. Childress, like the other candidates, knew it was being offered at $100,000. If he had said first, I would only take the job if it was paying a lot more, almost twice that amount, would you have dismissed the other candidates and not even interviewed them? Which shortchanged Biscayne Park. There might have been people who, for $100,000, would have been very adequate. Mr. Sid sounded very good. You all seemed to like him, encouraged him to apply for the long-term position, and he said he would do it for $100,000. And I feel it's deceptive to the residents that you said you were going to offer this position at $100,000, and to the other candidates who maybe were out there that if they knew it was $176,000, maybe even better or more candidates would have applied. So the way this was done, it was like a bait and switch, which really left a very bad taste in my mouth. And you have a responsibility to the residents to do the best job for them. Not the easiest thing, not to rationalize, well, if we did that, we would have had to pay this or that. That wasn't what the deal was. It was $100,000, no benefits. That's time up. That's at past 3 minutes. Okay, well, anyway, just one thing about Miami Country Day. They do a nice job with their buildings. Please protect our residents having access to playing fields. When they're playing baseball, maybe we could have a baseball team of our own, but we won't be able to because Country Day will be using it. So we have a tiny field. Protect our residents. Thank you.
Gary Kuehl, 777 Northeast 111th Street. Quick comment about the Country Day presentation. I could listen to the point where I heard the hours that they'd be using the field, which is after school when our residents want to use the field. And we have a very active rec center. I really appreciate it. That's improved over the years. So I see a real conflict there. And looking in the past, when they did use the field, we used to have a very nice field. We used to spend a lot of money to keep it up, and it was destroyed when we started renting it out. As Barbara said, we were both very dismayed at the process that was shortchanged in terms of looking for an interim manager. The residents didn't even get to hear from all the candidates, which, do they know that, there were other people that even applied? While it, is undoubtedly the responsibility and the authority of the interim village manager, to have the same responsibilities, I should say, and authority as a permanent manager, the fact of the matter is it's an interim position. And basically the idea is that the interim manager is keep the village running until we go through the selection process and hire a permanent manager. Now, Hadal, who I've known for many years, is virtually a next door neighbor to us. He's 2 houses away. Had he accepted the job for $100,000? No question. We'd be very fortunate. We'd be really lucky. But we're talking about an interim manager, okay? As Barbara said, it was $100,000. Now we're entertaining the idea of $175,000 and 4 vacations? So who's running the fort during the vacation times? I mean, I'm sure they aren't weekend vacations or we wouldn't be talking about it. I really think that Focus on the idea. This is an interim manager. Okay? It's, if nothing else, it's an opportunity to look at other candidates. But I think this is really overstepping what was discussed with the community, what you told the community, and I think it is absolute overkill considering the fact that this is an interim position. Thank you.
Janie Anderson, 11905 Northeast 11th Place. I wasn't going to speak tonight, which is why I emailed all of you, but I feel that another perspective needs to be public. First of all, it's not unusual that you only would have interviewed a couple of candidates. You always do a short list. You don't interview everybody that applies. But I was one who was so adamant during the budget process that we shouldn't even go to 150,000.
Sorry,
Well,
Janie, I can't hear you.
I'm sorry. I was so adamant during the budget process that we shouldn't even go to 150,000. Well, I was also very guilty of being short-sighted. When we're at a crossroads now. We have so many issues in need of fixing, not the least is to restore trust in the community for the commission, for administration. It takes a seasoned veteran, someone with Al's background, someone I never figured would come along, which is why I complained about salary, with his background, his expertise, who has walked the walk and been there. It takes that and his kind of character to right this ship. Someone on the very first rung of their managerial ladder, well-intentioned though they may be, simply is not in a position to do that. You know, why do we always have to take the satisfied with just having a caretaker attitude? Can't we finally be a big city in attitude, excuse me, who wants to move forward? And for that, it is going to take someone like an Al. Thank you.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Gage Hartung, 1029 Northeast 114th Street. I kind of will defer to Gary and Barbara. Was a little concerned about the change in salary mid-meeting when I heard about it, but again, I'll leave that up to you. I hope that we take the time on selecting the new manager. It could be Al, it could be whatever, but this last manager, I don't know if we have fully understood, or there might be something out there that more damage that he's done because he wasn't really the right person for this job. And I hope to God that there isn't anything else there that we have not learned about yet. Regarding Miami Country Day, it's nice to see them. I would like to find out about the community meetings. I'm pretty involved with the village. I didn't know anything about that they had meetings, so I'm hoping that they're being email blast to us and that we're a little bit more noticed about it. I'm the one that brought up the last time what happened to the community liaison position that they had about 10 years ago. David Caviello was big thing here at the commission. He was going to be, they had a board seat over there or something for him, for one of us, I think, to have some kind of input, or at least, be there to listen to what's going on at Country Day. So I'm still curious to know what happened with that particular situation. I am a little concerned about privatizing our park and limiting access to our residents. It would be nice to let them use our park and everything, but again, parking, resident access during the time, and again, any type of when I hear private partners, private public, it makes me wonder, do we need to really bring this to our village residents, because this is some kind of contract that we're entering into with our public lands. So with that, there's some items on the agenda tonight, and I'm going to try and hang out. Hopefully it won't be too late. If not, I might zoom in and you can ask me some questions that you might have on those items later. Thank you.
Good evening. Can you hear me all right? Great. We got it. Okay. John Holland, 844 Northeast 119th Street. First, thank you for asking me to serve again, Mac. Invaluable learning experience, knowing what it takes to actually do this job right, and I do not want it anytime soon. So thank you for confirming that for me. 2026 or 2028, more likely. 26 maybe. A few items that I'm just gonna, I know we're short on time, but I was nice to see the interlocal agreement on the agenda. I live on 119th, as did 80% of the people at that meeting after the event. The vote for mayor, I'll abstain on that. I think Jonathan's done a great job, but maybe it's a lot more work. So I don't know, maybe he could use the break. It's hard enough just being on the commission. The police agreement, someone came and mentioned about how part-time officers are taking cars home. I don't know if that's going to be talked about at any point tonight. I spoke with Manager Childress, and apparently it's not in the police arbitration agreement, but it's, and this is the Bubba system that he ran. It's how we've always done it. So if we're okay with it, quantify the costs and just change the policy, write it into the policy. If we're not okay with it, then that's for you guys to decide. Going forward, I would encourage the commission to keep an open mind and to not dismiss good ideas just because they come from people that, or there's other reasons why you know, any interpersonal things, check your ego at the door, all that stuff. I was here during certain eras where I saw good ideas get shot down because of who was presenting them. Please don't let that happen. Several people spoke about Childress's role. I did have a comment, you get what you pay for. It was a huge jump though, to hear people speak about it in retrospect gives me some pause to think, but you know what? That's what the job is, to determine if long-term, what he asks and what you're willing to provide out of the budget are fine. Speaking of budget, Bradley was nice enough to get back to me in October, and I would ask that you do conduct a feasibility study on the possibility of utilizing amortization and depreciation on certain things that would be considered fixed assets out of your capital expenditures budget, things like buildings and generators that can be amortized, and that frees up operating budget. Obviously, there's concerns about long-term ramifications of going debt crazy. Those can be passed by ordinance, and restrictions can be put in place to make sure that it's sustainable per the feasibility study. Three last things. One is I would like to be on the Parks and Parkways board again. I think someone has to nominate me. And then I guess two last things, or it's an offer to, if there's any help that you guys need with cleaning up the capital expenditures spreadsheet or anything that can be done with our budgeting software, I would love to understand how our current finance people are managing our data, how they are coordinating this, how they're summarizing it and presenting it to you guys. This is what I do for a living now. And if there's some basic stuff that I can do to help simplify the process so that, for example, during budget season, you can have a summary level view and then drill down and actually see transactions that you're not relying on journal entries, stuff like that. Happy to do it. Let me know. Thank you.
Danielle Huntington, 744 Northeast 119th Street. So this is in regards to the village manager position and voting on a village manager. I sat through our last manager's 6-month review and his 1-year review, and I can't remember one resident who came and spoke in favor of our past village manager. And in doing research about Al Childress and various other managers, you know, some were disappointing, some had scandals, you know, but what resonated with me was that no matter what I read about Al, what I researched about him, it always came up good. And I wanted to read an excerpt that he had read at his last commission meeting in Key West that a police officer had wrote him. And it read, "Good morning. I just wanted to reach out to you to let you know that you've been an amazing city manager. I hope that you retain your position for the remainder of your contract and beyond. I feel you've acted in the best interest of your employees and our residents. You are a God-fearing and family-minded man. You lead with quiet patience and clear direction. You have exhibited an amazing fairness and integrity above all else in your dealings with us. From this side, it appears you're always looking for ways to make things better and have been so open to listening and working together. Thank you so much for attempting to make changes to bring best practices in government to our city and our police department. You are an intelligent, experienced, and honest city manager, and I appreciate you and your family. There was over 50 letters written in support of Al Childress from residents, 2 Zoomers, and 25 residents who spoke in favor to retain as village manager. And I hope you keep that in mind because the public trust in our elected officials and village manager and police department is at an all-time low. So thank you.
Any other comment here in the log cabin before we move to Zoom? Okay, none. Turn over to Zoom if there are any. Seeing none, okay. So go ahead and thank you to everyone who provided comment. We appreciate it. And we'll move on to our commission reply, but certainly I'd like to thank John Holland for filling in for us here on the commission. We appreciate your willingness to serve us and your assistance. So certainly thank you for joining us for the time that you were with us. So I'll open the floor to the rest of the commission for any specific reply before we move forward.
Super quick, 2 things. John, go online, pull up an application for Parks and Parkways and fill it out and send it to the clerk, and you'll be on the next agenda for us to vote on your membership. We will have a grueling interview process with you. And we'll be negotiating the package up front. Second thing, Danny, I would argue that this is not the worst public trust the residents have had in elected officials and commissioners with the manager. I have sat in this room where there were people up here that I personally have great faith in this group, but I sat up back there when there was a disaster up here and a manager that got fired. So it can be worse. So I understand your sentiment and I agree with a lot of it, but it can and has been a whole lot worse in the 10 years I've been here.
Any other reply?
I'll save my comment really for the city manager, but I just wanted to say one thing. This is not to say that he should not be the city manager. This position that we're talking about tonight is temporary city manager, not a permanent city manager. I'm not saying he's not qualified to be permanent city manager, but the process is temporary city manager, approximately about 3 months, and then we're going to be picking the permanent city manager, which he can apply for. So I'll save my rest of my comments for when we have it. And
Thank you, same. Thank you, John, for your time with us. And I know it was short-lived, but it was great to have you on board, and I hope you continue to bring that knowledge forward because we're going to be discussing finance. The rest, I'm happy to discuss during comments on the rest of the items.
Okay. All right. Thanks, everyone. All right. So having concluded that, let's move on. So reports would be next. I know we wanted to bump up 11. I don't know if this would be the appropriate place to do it, but I think that we probably should. So before we get started with the rest of the rest of our agenda.
Thank you, guys.
Gentlemen. Let me see. Let me just scroll down to it. Okay, 11B, under our amended agenda. I'm sorry, not 11B. 11A, apologies. 11A. So this is a resolution 2024-50. Mr. Attorney, can you read the resolution for us?
A resolution of the Village Commission of the Village of Biscayne Park, Florida, electing one of its members to the position of mayor, providing for an effective date.
Okay. Do I have a motion and a second to approve the resolution?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Okay. All right. So let's move the resolution to discussion. So I think the way that we did this 2 years ago was kind of left the floor open for a motion to appoint or motion to have someone nominated for the position. I don't know if we went down the row. I actually don't quite remember. I think we went down them.
We went.
Okay.
Just point of order. Sure. I think when Commissioner Kennedy Commissioner Kennedy's idea of a commissioner nominating himself, which the last time you did it for mayor, I think you had where a person can nominate themselves and then seeing if you got a second?
Well, you could always do that.
I thought that process was.
I'd have to look back, but I think what I said was, it would be nice to hear people say they wanted the job
That's what I
before we
meant,
jumped
yes.
into a nomination.
No.
I think that-
All right,
I may have said something along those.
No, you had it where you, let's say if you want the job, you would not, nominate yourself. You would say why you want. I like it because the old way we used to do it is whoever won the election usually gets, got it. But anyway, I just wanted to say that process.
No, we never did that,
Okay,
Dan. We
whatever.
never did that.
All right, so just understanding the process then, the way we've done before, just start on this end and I guess go down the line.
Yeah. So I want to nominate you, Jonathan, again to be our mayor. I want to say why. 2 years ago, Jonathan, together with Veronica Olivera at the time, we were the 3 up-and-coming commissioners and joint commissioner with R. Gonzalez and Matt Kennedy. And, it was hard to come into the commission at the time, 3 of us being completely new. We had no history. We didn't know how that was going to work out. And I very much appreciate that you took the role. Hesitant and all as you were, I know, and it has proven to be a great value, not only for your time and dedication, but I've seen how slowly that takes time to own that position and the work you've done to represent the village. I'm very proud of that, and I am very thankful for that. I know it's not easy, and in several instances, whether it's the League of Cities, where it's with the county commissioner herself through the ILA process, that was key. Many times it came up, and numerous other times with different mayors across the county. So I appreciate that very much. I think you have sort of a demeanor that comes with the role of being a attorney yourself, a lawyer yourself, that you kind of bring to the position. And I find that of great value as well. So the background you bring the professional background, I think is very needed and has been at great use. So for that reason, I wanted to nominate you to continue to do the job. You have 2 more years in your term, and I find that you have learned to put the balance needed in the conversations so they don't go out of control. Many times we do challenge that, I think, here and there. And I think on my end, I would love to see more of a strong hand to stop certain conversations so that our clock doesn't go 4 hours. But that's sort of what you bring. And your attitude has always helped to arrive to where we need to get. So for me, that's why I want to nominate you. And I would love to see that continuity for 2 more years. There's other people that I think do a wonderful job, but I think what you've done has the opportunity to continue. So that's why I'm nominating you.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Certainly, I've enjoyed serving in the position and serving with this commission, and with our previous commission, with all of our village employees and everyone that's been involved. And it's been a pleasure to serve with all of you. And I have great respect for every single one of you and how much work that you all put into. So I appreciate that. I will, I guess, accept the nomination. I,
Sure, you're going to it. I'm very happy you
yeah,
are.
well, I appreciate it. I appreciate it. I'll leave it at that. So I'll graciously accept the nomination and just pass it along.
I want to save mine just for the vote, and I already know the answer to this, but I want in case residents don't know. Mr. Attorney, could you explain exactly what the role of according to our charter, what the role of the mayor is?
So the role of the mayor is to run the meetings, and in his absence, the vice mayor would run the meetings. And he is also the ceremonial head of the village in the sense that for other governmental functions, he would represent the village in those types of ceremonial situations. As far as his role, this is clearly, as you all know, he is not a strong mayor, so he is 1 vote on the commission. But essentially, that's essentially his role. He runs the meetings, and he's the ceremonial head of the village for certain functions, like if there was some type of function in another jurisdiction that would require a ceremonial head of the village to attend, it would be the mayor or somebody that the mayor would designate in his absence.
Okay, thank you.
I also want to nominate Jonathan. I think you've served admirably. I think you've served professionally. I think that you've done a great job for us in the last 2 years, and I would hope to see you serve out your remainder 2 years in your term. I would echo what Commissioner Amsler said, that I would challenge you to rein in some of these long conversations and just continue. I'll leave it at that. Just rein in some of these long conversations and make us more productive. Challenge us to be more productive.
Well taken.
Okay, so I think we're all going to be in quick agreement here on this. So Jonathan, you've done a great job. You stepped in here with no experience on the dais, and you learned the role of mayor very quickly. You grew into the role, and I appreciate that. But I am going to give you a little bit of criticism, and I know you'll accept this. You're a big boy, and you can hear it. And I hope you take it for what it's worth. 2 comments specifically. While you grew into the position of running the meetings, I don't feel like we got Jonathan the commissioner as much as we got Jonathan the administrator of the meetings. So you're running a meeting well and learn to call the balls and the strikes and the resolutions and the ordinances and how things are called to vote. But as a reminder, and I'm saying this as a resident who voted for you, am I allowed to say that? I voted for you. I don't feel like I got Commissioner Jonathan as much as I got the guy who runs the meetings. I would ask you to step up into your commissioner role and understand that you're one of the 5 of us in that regard. Sometimes I don't even hear you vote on things. And I feel like you're thinking so much you need to be Switzerland and try to help keep everything smooth in here. And while I appreciate that, you are one of the 5 of us. And I want all 5 of us bringing ideas and suggestions and resolutions and championing causes. We need 5 idea people up here, not 4 plus someone to run a meeting. And I feel that that's kind of where we stand with you. I get very little from you as a commissioner, but you're doing a nice job sitting here running the meeting. Here's the other criticism, and you know this is going to come from me if it comes from anybody. This village has never heard from its mayor. You've been the mayor for 2 years, and I can't think of a time that you ever communicated to the village about anything. The village has to do better at communications. All of us have the opportunity to communicate, and some of us take advantage of that more than others. But the mayor is the head of the community. You're not a strong mayor, but you're the mayor. And with that title comes the presumption of being the person that people should hear things from, and they haven't. I've never gotten an email from you or any kind of a communication, and I'm a resident. If something went out and it didn't come to me, that may be the case. Residents are hungry to hear what's going on. You guys know that I send more emails and communications than the rest of you and the village, quite frankly, all combined. I have become the de facto communication arm of this village, and it's not appropriate. People are hungry for it. They are so grateful when they hear from me. And people, Jonathan, they think I'm the mayor because I communicate with them. So when I tell people, no, I'm not the mayor, well, then who's the mayor? I have to tell them who you are. I would love to see you step into that role and be a voice for this community and let them know what's going on. They're hungry for it. They're so grateful when they get it. I get people stopping me all the time. I can't go to Publix or Aldi's without someone coming up. And generally, the main thing I hear is, thank you so much. If I didn't hear from you, Mac, I wouldn't have an idea what's going on around here. I would ask you to step in and take some of that role. You have a voice, you have a position that sounds like it probably has more authority than it really does per our charter, but take advantage of that and let people hear from you. I think they would really, really appreciate it. So as a resident, I ask you to be a commissioner as well as being a mayor, and I ask you to communicate better to the residents. They really, really want it, and I know they'd appreciate hearing it from you. You've seen how many people I've brought in here and walk them up and introduce them to you. This is our mayor, and they don't know who you are. So I'd like to see those things change. So those are my criticisms, but overall, I'm very pleased with the way you do things. And I think a lot of you as a person and in this role. I mean, I sat down with you and asked you to run, for goodness sake, So I just ask that you grow into some more aspects of the job.
well taken, and the respect is mutual. I've said it before, and I hope you know that. So, and with at least to the rest of the commission and our new commissioner as well, I mean it when I say it. I enjoy doing this with all of you, and I have a tremendous amount of respect for all of you. So, your vote of confidence certainly.
Why don't you nominate yourself to be mayor? Since it's a love fest up here, I'll second it.
We need, yes, I was going to say, need a motion.
I'll make a motion to nominate Jonathan Gross as mayor for Biscayne Park.
I'll second that.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Well, again, thank you all very much. I very much appreciate it. That's kind of you, but certainly not necessary. Thank you to the commissioners, and thank you for everyone for working hard together, and certainly your vote of confidence means a lot to me. It does. And I take it to heart. So thank you, everyone. And I look forward to being better every day, certainly. Shorter meetings. Okay. All right. So having concluded that, let's go ahead and get to our reports, please. Our first report is, Mr. Manager, maybe this is something you might be able to take us through if you have any comments on our ridership report, which is 8A. If there's anything you'd like to bring to our attention, or if there's any questions or comments about that report. Excuse me.
I don't know if you were getting these before, but I'm certainly, anytime that I get them, I'll forward them to you and put the monthly report on the agenda. So I just, we're hope to, as we expand the agenda, that we have monthly reports from each department.
That would be very helpful. I know we have been getting these as far as I can remember. So if there's, is there any questions on 8A?
I don't recall getting all these graphs and stuff. This is kind of neat.
We did. We
Did we?
used to, yeah, and it was included in some agendas and in some it wasn't. And I think the vendor by contract has to provide the stats of what currently is being used. So it's at our discretion to check them. But I do notice that they have been going down, and I think on this point, a lot of people still don't know that this exists, and a lot of people forget as to why it exists too, and what the service is there for. So one thing, Mr. Manager, that we could do is maybe just use the email blast, use our social media outlets, just to let people know and be aware that this is happening. And it could be also an opportunity for the vendor to do some advertising themselves. They used to give these pamphlets to everybody where it has the explanation as the QR code you need to use to download the app and all of it. But I think what I'm seeing is a little bit of fatigue maybe from a lot of people that might be new, might used it a long time ago, used it to go vote maybe a couple years ago and thought it was just that. It could be a good reminder for everybody.
That's my only comment as well, is that this needs to be communicated better, added to the list of all the things that need to be communicated better. But this is something people really do appreciate it. And I dare say the majority of residents probably never heard of it. So we have to always keep in mind, guys, that we know lots and lots of stuff. The average resident doesn't. So I promise you, you go find 10 strangers on the street in Biscayne Park and ask them, and they're not going to know what it is. So this does need to be shared. Al, I think, and maybe one of you guys will remember better than I do, I think part of our contract with Freebie is that they're required to do some promotion for it. We might want to look into the contract. I think it's in there that there's some things that they're required to do.
Okay. Thanks, Mr. Manager. Thanks, commissioners. Any other question about AA before we move on to 8B? Hearing none? Okay. 8B is Commissioner Amsler, your report for.
Oh, yeah. So it's a little bit in the middle of everything. Maybe next time I'll push it for the end. But here, there's two things I wanted to highlight. One is regarding the unsafe intersection at 107 and 9th. And that's because that started a while ago, finally got to resolution after a lot of back and forth we've had. We had Commissioner Steinberg here today, so that was wonderful. And this is happening after some back and forth. What it taught me is first, never get a no for an answer. If I can tell you how many times I was told by either a manager or someone that worked or have lived here for a long time that this couldn't get done, I don't know. It's been a while and a lot of asking and a lot of no's. The county, you can't do that. We need it. No, it has to go through another. So it was always a process. It was as simple as me meeting with the Department of Transportation, having a meeting myself, went there, knocked on the doors and said, how can we get this done? And they said, we can send someone, do an analysis in the corner, and it will push it through, see who's paying for it. And it came out to be that because 107 is not a road that we can intersect in a way with our budget, it was the county, and Commissioner Steinberg picked it up and it got approved and it's now going to happen. So I wanted to put it in the map, kind of share my experience with it. Since the very beginning, my first item was traffic being an issue, having residents knock on the door and sort of see how people are speeding. How can we be the only ones that don't have a speed bump? I don't know if you guys remember, that was my first item. How do we get a speed bump? Because I have one in my intersection. And the answer was, well, same thing. We have to go through the county. We can't do anything about that. That's actually beyond our control. We can lower the limits, speed limits. All of this knows just prove me that many times it's about just going around and talking to the people that make those decisions. And this is, I understand we have a lot of capable people and staff, but we've seen a number of managers, 3. This will be my 3rd in 2 years. And with that, I have heard many stories. So this happened. So I'm going to continue to do that. You will hear me calling and picking up sort of the numbers of whoever in different departments make those decisions and hopefully getting more things done. The next one has to do with SOP. That was the second item or third item in the agenda, and it was from January of this year, so it's going to be almost a year. I introduced it with the idea of putting some standard operating procedures in place when it comes to administration. Also, because we move from manager to manager and we move staff to staff and people change, we have no way of reconciling that knowledge and in a process that belongs to us. So far, it's been the manager's ownership. If the manager feels the village operates in a certain way, we've been operating in that way. New manager comes along. They feel the village should go this direction, we go that direction. We should have a village standard as to what operating correctly is for us. We haven't had that. With that, the first thing I want to be touched by the manager, and his experience brings a lot to us in this aspect, is the administration part related to accounts payable and an expense policy. I can tell you how hard the budget season was this year. A lot of, I don't know where that money comes from. I don't know, that doesn't match. Why are we over here? Why are we less here? A lot of scratching our heads and multiple meetings trying to get to one number. That is an accounts payable process problem, huge issue. We are not, and I'll let the manager kind of speak about where we sit with that. But there's holes, and we need to fix this hole. So the number one issue is, when it comes to me, and this affects me directly as your commissioner, is that I have to sign approval for every check. Not myself, but any of us as a second signature in order to release checks. And that has happened for 2 years now that I've been as a commissioner. And I've asked sort of the process behind that. The usual answer is sort of how we've done it. And it turns out that, and Mr. Childress here knows the history of the village even longer than I do, that probably this has been going on since the commissioners were owning the different departments, even before we went to a manager sort of commission sort of government. But this is what's happening. Right now, I'm going to just kind of read what I put. I'm concerned about signing checks because I lack the necessary documentation and visibility to confirm that the service were completed as agreed. The amounts are billed aligns with the contracted terms and the quality of work meets standards. If the bathroom is dirty, and we've heard people complain about the bathroom is dirty, we have a process, or we should have a process in place that says that when we pay the check, someone checked that the bathroom were dirty or not. And then before we make that payment, it's clear to the vendor that there are issues when it comes to service. Those service standards are by contract highlighted. And I don't know what the process is. So I do ask the questions I feel I need to ask when I sign a check, but they're very top line. I would never know how many hours a police officer did in part-time. It's not my role to know that, but it's someone's role to put together a package that recognizes everything from a PO, which we don't have, to the hours of service by who, and sort of tie it all up to the budget that we approve once a year. That's why we did the exercise of scratching $500 here, $500 there. I mean, it matters. It mattered to us, so we need to make sure it's being accounted correctly. And I personally feel very uncomfortable signing checks with this lack of visibility. And I've asked sort of to be removed from the process until it's figured out. And I wanted to make sure that you guys are aware of that and hopefully waiting on a response from a manager as how to fix it. And the second is the expense policy. We currently have some expenses sitting that have been paid with personal credit cards. When do we allow, how do we allow, how much, what sort of ranking goes into order to approve these things? It's a part of a one-on-one administration for any organization. The fact we don't have that and we're not trying to see who approves what and where did that money, kind of how do we track it back, is the same reason why we're going to have a headache come new budget season next year. So these two things are tied in. They're huge in terms of figuring it out. And, it's been a year. So now that we have Mr. Childress as an interim manager, we've had him for a month so far, I've asked him to connect with our finance team and sort of figure out some answers for us. Those are the two things. I don't know if, Ms. Manager, I didn't see you have a report there. I don't know if you want to answer on this specifically.
Through the mayor, yeah, in response to the commissioner's report, yeah, we've met several times already. We're working on this process. I hope to have a finance report on the next Village Commission meeting. And then also, you asked for the police chief to make a presentation in December. We'll have the finance come in January and make a presentation.
Would this be a presentation of how they?
The whole department presentation, from A to Z.
Okay.
Department presentation.
So you brought to my attention, what's the current situation with AP in terms of our running a bit behind with checks and
Yes.
what's happening?
So I want to report that the village attorney got paid tonight. It was
Oh.
hand delivered.
There's that.
So it was 3 months behind or so. So we were
3 months.
right. So we're working to fill that backlog, and we're making progress on filling that backlog. Yeah.
Okay.
May I ask you a question since you put a report on, Monica? First of all, thank you I like that. I think we should all do that. Where do we stand on the letter to Miami Shores regarding the pool and the presentation to their council?
So that was done. That was done at the beginning of last month. That was going to come on my next report because they just met this past Tuesday, was it? Yeah, election day, to discuss it. I had the opportunity to meet with all of them, send individualized letters to everybody. I sent emails to everybody. I talked to almost everybody. And I have to say, I give special thanks to Council Member Cantor. He took the item and sponsored the item to be held at the last commission meeting they had on Tuesday. And the idea, as I presented it, was just to have a conversation. There was no specific requests as to what we wanted, specific times. There was no talk of a special amount of money to be discussed, nothing like that. I also spoke to their manager. And the best way around that was to have that item sponsored. He did it. I spoke with everybody except for Councilmember Harris, the only one that didn't get the chance to kind of hear from me. She got the letter, and she was the only one in opposition. They had a conversation.
The only one what?
In opposition to considering it. Clearly, the Shores, just like we heard from some people today, they want to protect their assets first. So residents want to make sure the aquatic center stays theirs, and they want to make sure that whatever the uses, and it's not up for not-for-profit sort of a department per se, and I believe it's on the laws every year. They were not compensated with us either. They have a contract with Bay Harbor right now. It's very little use from Bay Harbor, very, very little, which makes the point that, you know, from the, I believe somewhere around 6,000 people that they have, a lot of people could still use it because the usage was something around 400 that I heard they currently have. So the conversation happened. I've asked them to sort of make sure to release some sort of a formal statement so I can share with all of you. And I leave it like that. And probably by next commission meeting, we'll hear the resolution. If you ask me how my feeling was, it was okay. I would have loved to see, they were all for continuing a conversation on many aspects. That's one of the things I spoke to all of them. Personally, I think we can do better in connecting with a lot of different things that are happening at a county level that we can sort of tie in with them. But this specific item, we'll see. You know, it was sort of left to, I don't think there is going to be a lot of pull from residents. There is a lot of pushback. And I asked to make sure that it's formalized, and either we'll get it on a letter or by next commission meeting, I would have received the formal phone call, just letting me know how it went. So
Can I
that,
quote yourself back to you?
yes.
On the intersection, you got a bunch of no's and you made that a yes. This time you're starting with a yes, so maybe it'll be a bigger yes too. So
Well, let's hope, you know,
thank you
Yeah.
for doing that.
sure.
So on the point too about the expenses and the finance and everything, maybe the new position that we found money for in the budget for Paul will hopefully support that initiative in making it a little more clear and kind of making it so that
That's
these
why we
items-
asked, because that's been a lot, sort of that role in itself has been very informal per se. And so that connection needs to be strong. And that's why that will be part of it. We'll hear from Paul directly.
Excellent. Well, thank you, Commissioner. If there's no more additional questions for Commissioner Amsler's report, let's go ahead and get to 8C, which is our code report. And I believe we have Doreen here with us still. Probably. While we wait to get her attention, maybe. Certainly, I'll ask if she's there. Well, let's do this first, and let's open up to the commission. Excuse me, if there are any questions or any comments or anything about 8C, the code report, at this time. Seeing none. I know Doreen is there if she can hear us and wants to chime in at any point. We'll let her. Okay. So no questions on our code report. Let's go ahead and get down to our police report. Chief is here with us this evening. So pull up the police report and, well, first I'll open it to the chief to have him provide us with any comments or any summaries or anything you'd like to say about the report. So Chief, thanks for being here with us.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Police department is committed. We're working on a couple other operational things this year. We spoke with the colonel, the highway patrol. Hopefully, if everything goes good, it sounds like we'll get some of their handed down laptops, about 48 of them, so every officer can be issued one, so we can start switching over to electronic base. With laptops that we have, we'd be helping out. I know the admin side was trying to get some laptops, so we're going to be trying to help each of the departments. So that went very well in that meeting. We did lose both of our traffic officers, so we're in the process of outreaching to find and recruit some new hires to fill those roles. Also, our sergeant at arms resigned from the position, so we'll be looking for a new sergeant at arms to attend our village meetings. Outside of that, everything else stays pretty status quo.
Can I ask you, Chief, where are we at with accreditation?
We're moving forward with it. We have our first SOP policy drafted over to the village manager for approval. So we're in the process now of rewriting all the policies. We should be finishing up our open investigation that will allow us to move forward with the evidence and rectifying that. So the accreditation process is moving on track. We met with North Bay Village today. They're welcoming us with open hands to try to assist us with that. Also give us some information on about a $75,000 grant to assist us with further accreditation. We also, on the police side, we've met with Paul, and we're going to start, once he gets back from vacation, start conducting weekly or biweekly financial meetings on the police side so that we can kind of clean up and tighten up our budget. But the accreditation is moving along.
Great, thanks, Chief. Any questions from the commission for the chief?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, if I could, just on accreditation, I think it's so important. I applaud the chief that he's moving forward for accreditation. When I became a city manager at Doral, our police department wasn't accredited, and we brought in a chief that was from Miami Beach that his main job was to get us accredited. And the chief had explained to me that this afternoon he met with Chief Noriega, who I know very well from Miami Beach. So the chief and I will have some follow-up meetings with him to assist us in getting accreditation. I think this is very important for the village.
Further affirmation that accreditation is the way to go. Thanks, Mr. Manager. Thanks, Chief. Questions from the commission for the chief?
Chief, I just got a couple of things. One, I was out there with your officers during the tropical storm or the hurricane that passed by through us, helping residents bag sandbags. They did an admirable job. They worked long hours. They were help loading cars, bag sandbags for elderly residents. They did a tremendous job, and they should be thanked for that. As well as I overheard your officers had a medical save. They use an AED and had a person revive from cardiac arrest. They should also be, accommodated for that. And I hope you're putting them in for some kind of award for that, because that truly is special. That doesn't come along very often.
Yes, sir. I'm hoping we went ahead and used a little bit of the admin side budget last fiscal year to order some awards. So I'm hoping in December we'll be able to have our first police department award ceremony, which everyone will get invited to, but kind of recognize that we've had, I think, about 4 AED saves in the last year or so, and no one's ever gotten anything other than email. So we want to kind of recognize them and bring it forward so that both they're kind of awarded for it, but the community also knows what they're doing.
Yeah, first off, I want to congratulate you on the report. I think this report is pretty good, is in depth. I would like to see the police department be more involved in the community, meeting them. Like one example would be the police athletic lead. Are you thinking about maybe possibly starting that? And also having where meet the cop. I mean, we used to have that. I don't know why we stopped that. Coffee with the cop. I know we didn't get a lot of people showing it, and I think that's because we didn't promote it right. If you need anybody to promote it, get Commissioner Kennedy. He'll definitely promote it. Really good for you. But we need to have community involvement. And for small community, big community, I can understand. But so I also want to congratulate your officers every single year for Halloween. I mean, I've had so many comments about people that come to Biscayne Park. And I've also heard kids say, oh, let's get out of here. They got too many cops here. So we've had a lot of responses. So Halloween and Christmas is our best time. I approached the Metro Police Department and asked them, well, would you like to, come and do it? And they said, no way, you guys got that covered. So, I just want to congratulate you on that. And also thank you and the city manager for participating yesterday with me at Doral for the veterans thing, because as we're going to meet, we like to discuss about starting that here. We don't have anything for veterans and Memorial Day and all those ceremonies. And also one of the things as I talked to you about is something like on Thanksgiving, we should have really community things that's involved in the community. And I think we slack that. With small communities, you have that. Big cities, I understand, but we need to you need to have the residents really want to see, police officer and be happy. But anyway, otherwise, that's it. But definitely, I think you need to find that for that traffic, because you brought that up for the traffic to police officers. We need to get that back. I wasn't on the commission, but I heard the commission saying that was a good idea. So we need to get that back.
Yes, sir. It's a priority for us to get our traffic units back. We are going to be going to Miami-Dade College, even trying to recruit from the academy to see what we can get. We are trying to have more events. We reach out to Medley Police Department to mimic where they have one of the pretty effective Explore programs. So we're going to explore to see what that would take and the cost analysis of Explore program here. We also are reaching out. Ms. Linda helped us with Magic basketball to see if we can kind of reach out with our PAL officer. We do have a PAL officer, but we don't have a PAL program. So we're going to be trying to kind of incorporate that, see what we can do with it and the cost for that. We also started creating some different things, walking with the chief or coffee with the police. I'm finally kind of walking a little bit with a limp, but hopefully we can kind of get those things started so we can get out there with the community more often.
Yeah, this might be silly, but I think that we maybe should get a mascot, you know, or we have the canine union, we should promote that, but I think we should have a mascot of, you know, for police. I see other cities do that. And that gets kids at the rec center to be more friendly to a police, because kids get scared when they see a police officer. And that's something that we need to avoid.
Yes, sir. We'll definitely look into that.
Thank you.
May I, real quickly, two things?
Of course.
You referenced something in your report about an incident where some handguns were confiscated.
Yes,
and
sir.
I know a bit about what that was, and I just want to say thank you for that because I know you worked in conjunction with the code department.
Yes, sir.
And it's really important for us to remember that it's police are in charge of enforcement in terms of the laws and code for code, but we have code people out there and we have public works people out there as well that are eyes and ears all over this community. It was great to see that you guys work together so closely and that they very quickly got you involved in something that could have gone terribly, terribly wrong for you and them and the community. So thank you for that.
Thanks.
Why did we lose our two police, why did we lose our two traffic officers?
We're reevaluating and rewriting some policies to make sure we're in compliance with what our direction and where we're going. Unfortunately, due to the salary of those positions right now and the loss of temporary loss of take-home vehicles for part-time and reserves, they felt it wasn't conducive to their best benefits to remain in those positions. We do have a policy drafted. Me and the manager are working very hard to address that issue to make sure that we have a policy in place that we're doing things correctly, revamping that section. So as soon as that gets up and going, hopefully we'll be able to entice the people, our officers, to take the positions, but just with the $19 an hour and no other benefits, they just kind of backed out of it. So we're in that process right now again.
Was that something they had been promised when they took the job?
Beforehand, part-timers were assigned take-home vehicles, but that we did not per se have a policy on it. The part-timers and our on-call reserve personnel had take-homes also. And that was kind of the benefit for that
Wasn't something
position.
in the agreement when we hired these traffic officers that you call them?
No, sir, there was no set agreement on that. That was just a kind of a benefit that we gave them to encourage
It
the
was a
taking the
verbal thing.
position.
It was not something, I just want to know that we didn't change the deal for someone after the fact. This whole bait and switch, the word bait and switch came up here earlier tonight, and
Yes, sir.
that makes me cringe when I hear bait and switch, and I'd hate to think that officers were subject to that. So that was not the case.
No, but prior to my arrival with this department, part-time have always had the take-home cars. After a review with the manager on making sure we're doing things correctly and trying to get in line, we realized that the SOPs and the policies did not cover that. So we did a temporary hold to get that in place. That policy has been drafted and it's over to the manager's office, and then it will go to Brad.
I wasn't asking you to explain all of that. I'm
Yes,
just
sir.
talking about the two traffic officers. When they were hired, were they under the understanding that that would be part of the deal for them? Because you hired them. That's not from the old administration. That's your.
Yes, sir. We told them as a part-time position, was our standard practice. So that was part of the deal with them.
So it was part of what they were offered. They were
Yes, sir.
offered an hourly plus the take-home vehicles, and
Yes,
then
sir.
when we pulled the take-home vehicles, they quit.
Yes, sir.
So what's the fix to get these people back? Are you giving them take-home I mean, I just want to repeat, we offered them money and a car.
Yes,
and
sir.
And then we changed the deal on them?
Yes, sir.
Oh, well, that's not cool.
Yes, sir.
But that was not the case for all the part-timers. I'm just talking specifically these two.
Yes, sir.
Some of the part-timers were here before.
Yes, sir. It was, from my understanding, talking to the other part-timers, that's always been a verbal deal that they've had for the positions.
Those people were hired with the understanding that they got an hourly rate and they got a car, and then they were told they don't get it.
Yes, sir.
I would quit too, if you told me that this is how I'm getting compensated.
Yes, sir.
So how are you getting them back? You said you're going to try to lure them back. Are you going to give them cars, or are you going to give them more money?
I really can't do the money with the budget, but hopefully, me and the manager are working on the cars to get them back to them.
That's distressing. I didn't know that that was the case. We were very excited about this traffic force, and it was actually your idea.
Yes, sir.
Sat here in a meeting, and I said, Chief, what could you were the
Yes, sir.
Chief, I think you were, whatever you were that. And I said, what could you were the deputy chief, whatever.
Yes, sir.
I said, what could we do? And that was actually your suggestion, and we all were very enthusiastic about it.
Yes, sir.
And we budgeted for it, and we did all the things. So I'd hate to see it fall apart because the village, it sounds like we did employ.
Sounds
a
to
bait
me
and
like
switch,
we had no processes in place, and here we are. And that's the problem.
but we did offer it to them.
But that's a management decision. So whether it is the chief of police or the manager's conversation with an employee, police officer in this case, is the lack of processes that has of now again, that he said, she said, you know, we talked about it, but we have no policy. So I don't know what your concern is. For me is,
My
I want
concern
that
is that the
traffic.
village offered a position, and it's not he said, she said, it's he said, and they're saying the exact same thing. He's agreeing.
So for me, it's,
Offered them something and then took it away.
again, whether those positions were correctly assigned, whether a car needs to be assigned to a part-timer versus a full-timer, whether those particularity, that's sort of a management decision.
And I'm
What
giving
we-
my opinion on how they
No, no.
handled it. I'm saying that was a bait and switch. It was clearly a bait and switch.
For me is, I want what we approve, which was the traffic detail done with specific budget we assigned.
Yep.
How needs to happen is the correct way. We need processes in place. We need the right people in place. I'm not saying those two officers or one, I don't know what it was, are not or it. That's a management decision, but we need those, kind of that program to continue.
Yes, ma'am.
So for
We'll
me,
do-
that is a takeaway, at
And
least
it's a
on my.
poor process, but,
Yeah.
but
poor
ultimately in this
process.
case, they were offered something and then it was taken away from them. And we lost officers as a result, and we lost our program altogether.
And we got to
Like
do
the
better.
chief
We
has
got to do better with the processes in place so that doesn't happen. We can't just all of a sudden be putting things at a word. I said that.
Well, it sounds like we're working on something to correct that.
Without the first that we approved them.
Exactly.
We should have it
Well,
fixed by December.
Chief, I have a couple more questions. Having these take-home cars on the road without standard SOPs in place, did that create a liability for the village?
Yes, sir, it did.
Did the village attorney agree to create a liability for the village?
I don't know if we
In
specifically
your,
talked
okay,
to-
in your
but it
opinion,
would be,
in your
yes.
opinion, does it create a liability for
sir.
the village? Do other departments have these SOPs?
Yes, sir.
So it's industry standard. So the
Yes, sir.
village manager identified industry standards that we were deviated from, and he corrected it.
Correct, sir.
And we're not saying that we might not have take-home cars in the future. We're just setting up the SOPs. So we're
Yes, sir. We
covered
have
and
the
there's no
SOP.
liability to the village.
Correct, sir. We have the SOPs drafted. It's in the review process. So by December, we should be back online and back with our traffic units.
One more question. How long have we been having these take-home cars? Is it prior administration? How many village managers back does it go?
I could only tell you since I've been here, it's been a standard practice. From my
How many years have you
understanding,
been
it's been well over 6 to 7 to 8 years that's
So
been in
we're back
practice.
like 3 village managers.
Probably four or five.
More, four village managers
4 or
haven't
5.
found this?
Of about, I would say about 5.
That's a lot of village managers who had cars on the road, liabilities on the road, and we didn't identify it.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Chief, thank you for your time. I don't know, if there's no further questions. We appreciate the update. And I'd like to just echo it sounds like we have some things that are being corrected, which is a positive note. I'd like to just echo one of the sentiments about the Halloween event, how well run it was by the police department and by Issa in our rec department too. Overall, it was a great event. I didn't get to spend much time in there. I was being dragged to another house for candy, but it's second to none every year. So thank you all for your hard work and commitment to that event. Thank you, Chief. You didn't get Doreen? No, okay. Okay, so having completed our report section, let's go ahead and move on down to section 9, which is our.
Well, we didn't have an opportunity for commissioners to give reports.
We did not have that on there. Okay.
No, and also, there are other, recreation, I just wanted to say thank you too, but Public Works, yeah. we
Yes,
haven't
Public Works as
discussed
well.
Some of the, departments.
I mean, this is not a criticism, but is it possible that we can get a report from the Recreation Department? Not now, I mean, just in future.
I think,
Exactly what's going on in the rec.
So I think
He's doing a good job, and I just think that when, like now, I forgot to mention him about the Halloween, and that's smart, but we need to, I think a report from the Recreation Department should be part of it.
Well, I think one of the points that the manager has made is that we're working to start getting all of the departments and boards to have the reports again. It's something that we did as early as less than 2 years ago, because I remember the departments and the boards all had their reports and people were here. So it's something that we talked about at one of our most recent meetings was it would be nice to have the folks, even on Zoom, would be great to have everyone here to discuss them with us, and address any questions. I would certainly give you the opportunity if there's anything you'd like to say, but I know that I hope that for our future meetings, we're going to have a formal position in some sort of report.
Right, so I don't want to put Issa on the spot, but he does a great job for the village, and he does an excellent and produces an excellent product. So we thank him for all his hard work. But next month we intend to have a monthly report from each department.
Tend to have what?
A monthly report for each department.
Yeah, because we always,
nice.
I mean, I agree with that. We always criticize what departments are doing, but we don't say the good stuff that they do. And I think that's something that the residents need to hear. Thank you.
So with that understanding going forward, let's give an opportunity to do some commission reports. If there's anything else that we'd like to add.
My last one in terms of department, Madam Clerk, I have to bring this up because we've been talking about it for a while. What's the status on the meeting minutes approval?
We have minutes that need to be approved. This agenda was,
I know.
the next meeting, you should have another,
So I want to reiterate why this is important to me. I have found errors in terms of, and this is not just, on your side, Pamela, of even prior of recording who votes yes or no on certain items. It is important to me to make sure that what I voted on, it's recorded properly. And we have a lack of minute reports to be approved for months. And I think that is going to come back to us as a work to do, to check that everything that we voted on is there and provided it is correctly, and it's posted for anybody to ask for, as Florida statutes required. So I think what I would like as Mr. Manager and you and Pamela can have the discussion, but it's a date where we can have committed to, and we can catch up with whatever's left. Because we have I know a few months behind, and it's, whatever's on your side, then it has to be on our side, just making sure we check. So it's everybody in the same boat. And then my last one, just Isa, thank you. It was awesome. It seemed like it was very safe too, for the police report, but also the letter to the commission that the manager shared. So thank you.
And it's also worth mentioning that the minutes are actually the official record of the meeting, not this video. So yeah, those have to be done and they have to be right. And we found plenty of errors of those in the past before Pamela was here as well. Can I jump in?
Okay. Yeah, of course.
So I missed Halloween, Isa, but congratulations, everyone raised about your, I got called out of town on business, so I missed it this year. Couple of quick things. The November 5th event, December 5th event that the Arts Board was doing for us is not going to happen now because we were sworn in tonight. So that's not going to happen. Remember that thing that we approved? I asked about that already. Look, I don't want to throw anybody under the bus or ask anyone to throw themselves under the bus, but the traffic ILA with the county, I sent an email the other day saying, where is it? And it's here now. I'm just like ticking off the months here, and we have no traffic ILA, which we were very happy to champion, and was going to be the solution to so many problems. And so it still isn't signed. So I'm just letting you all know, please keep an eye on things. I sent an email and the response was, oh, geez, never sent it to the county. So people make mistakes, but we all have to have eyes on all of this stuff because that's a really big initiative that already is just kind of like falling between our fingers, and we can't do anything until we have that. And now we're looking at December before we can see that thing. So we need to keep an eye on things. We all need to keep an eye on things. Al, what is the date for the, could you explain what's going on with the unsafe structure on 121st so residents are aware, please? We're trying to tear down a building and we got approved by the unsafe structure board, and then what happened?
So we found out through the county publishes those notices. It's not through the village, it's through the county's chief building official. And there's a mortgage on the property. So the bank wasn't notified, and they protested that they weren't available for the hearing. So it's now be rescheduled. The exact date, I don't know, but I'll get that to you, Commissioner, and also probably do an LTC on it.
Okay.
But we have to have another hearing. We'll be prepared for that hearing
So
as
it's
we
another
were.
complete
before.
hearing as if the first one
Yes,
didn't happen.
yeah,
Okay.
exactly.
We're all ready for that. The
Yes.
Pedro and the people from CAP are all ready to do their thing again,
And I'll be appearing in person.
and you'll be there as well. Okay, so we, just so everyone knows, the first one, I guess, which we'll consider be a warm-up hearing, we won, and we got permission to tear that building down. Some other things have to happen beforehand, so I'm hoping we can make that happen again. Okay, so, real quickly, the oak tree here at 7th and 113th that had a water main break underneath it. Al, I got your email. Thank you for letting me know that you guys are keeping an eye on that tree, but I hope we keep an eye on that tree. That's a beautiful oak tree at the median right here. And unfortunately, North Miami had to come completely excavate around it and cut through a lot of roots, some big roots, to fix the water main. So I hope everyone has eyes on that tree and we're doing whatever we can take. I know a big tree like that is resilient and they can handle a good beating and come back, but I hope we're keeping an eye on it. As a reminder, in December, we have to have a resolution for the 2025 meeting dates, and we trip over that every single year. So I hope that's on our agenda. And I would also love it, since we're doing it, since we're going to have a resolution with all the meeting dates, why not just add right to it the deadlines to submit and do all the deadlines, and everyone has to know it's all done at one time, bing, bam, boom, get it out to everyone, and then no one has to worry about that again for the rest of the year. FPL has been in the village recently. Al, you and I talked about this, and maybe we emailed about it. And they're trimming trees per their authority, to prepare for storms and all that good stuff. I understand they have to do what they have to do. They're not, the best arborists in the business, FPL, whoever these crews are. There is a project for this village to go completely underground, Al, and it seems to have gotten stalled. And I wonder if maybe you could sort of find out where we stand. They were going to do a small part of the village and it ended up getting bigger. And they came in here at my request and did a presentation and told us how it was going to be mapped out. And then they did another section. Gage, I think they did like down your street, didn't they? They kind of went a little farther than they were intending to. But it seems to have stalled. So I'd love to see the rest of this village get underground so they don't have to come back here and cut the trees. That still leaves data lines up in the air, but they're not the issue that the electric lines are. So if we could, maybe we could invite FPL to come in and give us an update on that project, and maybe it will kind of spur them to move along faster because they were moving at a pretty good clip there for a bit.
I think Gage has a point on that.
Well, and that's interesting, Al, because when they were in here, it was very clear it's electric lines only and not data. This was how many years ago, Dan? You were on the commission. It was right when I first became a commissioner, I think.
It was like 2018?
Yeah.
2017, they got easements from everyone.
Data was not going underground. So at my house, data did not go underground. But in other places in the village, apparently everything went underground with it. So I'm not sure how that happened, but it sure would be nice if that were the case, if everything went underground. Gage, you are so picky. Picky. Okay, so they put lines underground, didn't hook them up, so.
Well, I remember, sorry, I don't want to interrupt, but I do remember this came up during our last manager's tenure, just kind of an update, what was going on. It was kind of the same story from I don't know if it was from FPL or from the manager's position, about still identifying the most at-risk lines based on the grids that they're on and doing those first. That was the last I remember, and that just seemed like the same update for years and years.
They were so enthusiastic and they were great to deal with, by the way. FPL, if you're listening, they're wonderful. When they roll on your street to do it, they're great.
Yeah.
They really are.
Yeah, I mean, I would love to see that get done.
I actually, it's funny you mentioned that. I reached out to FPNL a few months back, wondering about the same project, and the representative that I got a hold of said that the funds had dried up and they were no longer interested in doing the project anymore. So that was under a different administration. I really hope with an experienced manager we have, we could persuade them to change their mind.
Yeah.
But that was the response I got back from FPNL, was that the funds had dried up and they had no interest in doing it anymore.
Then do we get the easements back if that's the case? Because I would be really interested to see how that goes.
Okay, couple of other things. So the lobbyist contract was on consent, and we voted, we did not vote it through yet. But it's on consent, and I didn't pull it off. But later this evening, I have an item, if we get to it, about alternative revenue sources. And we need to have a serious conversation about that, because I'm going to throw us under the bus a little bit here and say, as a commission, we've not done well working with these vendors who try to get us extra money. And we talk about doing it better every year and going to Tallahassee. And look, we haven't workshopped with Dave. Is he still here? There he is. We haven't workshopped with him to even tell him what we want to head him at and have him, tell us what's available. So we're not going to talk about that tonight, I know, until my item later, but I really want us to be more proactive with that. And I'm only mentioning it because it's on consent. Now, I do want to bring up one other thing, and this is kind of a big deal. So, Al, this is directed at you. And this is not something, Al, this is not a criticism of Al in any way. As a matter of fact, Al did something really good for us here. So, when our prior manager left, when Chris Truitt left here, it became known to us after he left, and I'm assuming all of you know this because I know it, so I'm assuming you all know. Dan, maybe this is news to you, that he did something on his way out regarding employment agreements, offering 10-year employment agreements to select staff members at Biscayne Park. And he had those agreements signed by these staff members, which bound us to them in 10-year contracts with having to pay them out if the contract were terminated for certain reasons. I'll let Al and Brad step in here, but Al became aware of this, and from my understanding, because of a little tiny legal little thing that wasn't followed properly, these contracts were not sent through the village attorney for legal sufficiency for him to sign off. Because that was not done, the contracts are void. And that's the only reason they're void, is because he didn't send them to Brad. Had he sent them to Brad, he would have said, these are legally sufficient. I don't know if Brad would advise it, but these contracts were then canceled. So Al, how many of these contracts were offered to staff members? How many of them signed the letter of agreement saying they understand it's void? How many of them refused to sign it? How many refused to sign the letter that was offered to them? Can you kind of encapsulate this for us? Pisses me off that someone would do something like this. I mean, I find it to be a personal violation, really, that someone would do this. So I want to know how many were offered, how many employees refused to sign them, thinking better of it, how many did sign them, and how many have signed a letter saying it's been rescinded, and how many are still hanging out there in the wind.
Through the mayor.
So please.
Commissioner, I hate to air our dirty laundry, and that's what we're.
I don't mind airing our dirty laundry at all, Al. Sometimes you need to air your dirty laundry. This is not, we have a transparent government here.
Right.
This is not airing our dirty laundry. This is telling people the truth about something that happened.
Right. So I found there was 5 that were offered. One employee knew what was being done was inappropriate and wrong. The other 4 employees signed the agreement. I immediately, when I found it, which wasn't easy to find either, it took some work to find these and going through them. When I found them, I brought it to the city attorney's attention. In my experience, my 40+ years of experience, this was the first time I ever seen anything like this. And it was a little shocking. But usually any type of employment agreement is brought forward to the elected body, the commission, to be approved at a public hearing. Or it's put on the consent agenda, everybody knows about it. I've done a couple for police chiefs at the prior cities that I worked for. And that's usually what it's limited to a police chief. It's not something you give to every employee. The village attorney had the same concern I did. He wanted to call employees right away. He drafted an agreement or a memo saying this was improper. And we got that memo out to the employees, and one refused to sign it, said he wanted to talk to his attorney first, and I'll be following up with him about that. but he has not signed it yet.
So 5 were offered, 1 employee chose not to sign it?
Was aware that this was improper and said, yeah.
The others did, and.
The other did, yes.
And what date were these signed by these employees?
It was, I was there that final week that the manager was leaving. I was shadowing the manager that entire week. The memos were going back and forth during that week because I covered a couple of emails. So there's emails going back and forth. This was signed on Thursday. His final day was on a Friday.
So
I think it was October.
You were shadowing him, but you were not aware that this was going
No, sir, I was not aware.
Okay, so his last day was Friday, and on Thursday, all of these were signed.
Yeah, on October 13th was his last day, and I think October 11th, excuse me. And then these were signed on the 10th.
So they were signed 1 day prior to his leaving. You were shadowing him. You had no idea. And Brad, he did not discuss, Chris Truitt did not discuss these with you. He did not show these to you, did not ask you to opine in any way?
Simple answer to that is no. The first time I saw these were when Mr. Childress sent me an email and asked me if I was aware of these, which I wasn't. When we were, just to follow up on the discussion so it's clear, when we looked at the agreements, your village charter requires any agreement to be signed by the village attorney for form and content. There was no signature. Excuse me. And what I saw, what we first saw were drafts. They were unsigned. So there was no signature line for the village attorney to sign as to form and content. In reviewing the agreement as well, there was a provision in it that was contrary to Florida law with regards to severance. Florida law for government employees, you can't give an employee more than 20 weeks severance. This was essentially well above 20 weeks of severance. So as managers pretty much told you what my advice to him was.
So
The only thing, if I may, the only thing I wanted to say is the memo that I had drafted for the manager to provide to these employees that had these agreements was basically just a memo. These agreements, these executed agreements were in the employee's employment files. So the discussion that the manager and I had was, I may not be here, the manager may not be here, there may be a new administration. If there was an issue where for some reason this agreement was being presented to a new administration, new attorney, new manager, we wanted some documentation as to the efficacy of the document. So what we were doing is we were putting a memo attaching it to the document in their personnel file. Can't remove the record. The record is a public record.
Yeah.
Identifying what the issues were. And we were also providing the memo to those employees so that they were aware of what we were doing and what our decision was, and the fact that this was going to be part of their personnel file. The signature part of it was only acknowledging receipt of the memo.
Got it.
And so the individual did sign the memo. They signed, they didn't, it's not that they agreed with what we said, they just were
Acknowledging
they
it.
received
Yep.
a copy of the memo. The one employee that wanted to talk to their counsel before they would sign, my advice to the manager at that time was, okay, just what we need to do is just take that particular memo, have the manager indicate on the memo in his own scribe that it was provided to this employee on such and such a date, and he refused to sign. And we put that in the memo so that at least we're in the file attached to that agreement. So if somebody were to look at it in the future, it was clear that that employee
understand.
would receive a copy of the memo.
Okay. So you're saying it's actually a charter violation. This is a violation of our charter or our code of ordinances?
It's a charter provision that requires
Charter provision.
its village attorney to review and sign off on an agreement.
Okay. So he did not follow the former manager did not follow our charter when he had when he signed these agreements.
Thank you.
I'm just repeating what you're saying.
Yes, you're.
Okay, great. Okay. Thank you. So for Al,
Oh, yeah, so Commissioner, if I could,
Yeah.
it should be pointed out that I read our policy and procedure manual, and in there it says that the village manager can offer employment agreements to employees. But, so I'm gonna change that, right? I'm gonna change that. It needs to be changed. to say, to take that out of there or say on approval by the by the village commission.
The commission.
But yeah.
Okay.
But also, I think if you want the full facts, those agreements had certain provisions in there that said if they were fired, if they were retired, one of them was if they retired after 3 years, they could buy their car for $1. So,
what else was in there, Al? They could buy their car for $1. If we terminated them without cause, that we had to buy out the remaining term of their 10-year contract?
there was some language in there that if they were terminated without cause, they would go back to a different position or a position of their choice or something like that, yes.
Okay, so just to wrap this up, Al, thank you very much for however it came in front of your eyes, for knowing that you were seeing something that was unusual and for chasing it down. And thank you, Brad, for steering him in the direction of adding this memo into the personnel files and saving this village some hassle in the future.
Can I say something, Commissioner? That's the job of a professional city manager.
Exactly.
Okay?
Okay.
Now, you don't have to thank us. That's what we do. But that's our job.
We thank
Isa
for a great event. We thank Gage for running good meetings, and we're going to thank you, especially
But no,
to save our
but
ass.
Commissioner, I want to say that's my job.
I get it.
My job is to find what's going on.
Okay.
I told Commissioner Amsler, I told her that I'm going to check every penny that's coming in and coming out of the village. As a resident too, that's important to me, but that's my job, is to do that.
Well, it was the former manager's job to follow our charter and as well. So I'm glad that's all getting wrapped up. It's very, I take these things really personally. To me, my opinion, it's a violation of public trust. This guy quit. He resigned from this position. He asked to be removed from the terms of his employment agreement and not work out the full notice. We released him from that. And we agreed, we as a body, not we as in Mac, I said no, to let him stay and work out this transition period. When someone's going to go and they're in a position like that, you take their keys, you walk them to the door, you pat them on the back and say thanks. You don't keep them around where they have the ability to do things like this. This is on us. We allowed that to happen because we didn't do the right thing sitting in this room that night. So I'm calling you guys out for allowing that to happen. That's exactly what happens. We wanted a transition period. Look what we got. The day before he left, he signed employment agreements that violate our charter. And I know y'all don't like hearing this out loud, but you need to hear it.
I heard it. I'm ready to move on.
You know what, Veronica? Sometimes you go on and
I'll
on
second
too.
that. I'm ready to move on as well.
No, what I'm gonna ask
Sorry.
is just
all right.
remain
Sometimes
calm.
you go on.
No,
and
you
on
can
too.
talk
And this is
calm.
important.
You don't need to
This isn't a
smack
letter
the
to
table.
rules.
Can we please?
We need to
Second,
talk
please,
calm.
please.
Okay.
All right.
This is important.
It's important. I'm grateful to the manager for pointing this out and finding this and catching it and going forward. And we're going and this is nullified. I appreciate the manager's efforts in correcting these issues. I agree it's important. And I'm glad that you brought it up. I'm glad that we heard from the manager and the attorney on it. I'm very,
Why did I have to bring it up, Jonathan? Why did the manager, the attorney, 4 other commissioners, why did one commissioner have to bring this up? Something really bad happened in Biscayne Park. Again. A police thing happened just a couple of months ago. Again. Then this. You can't let this stuff happen, guys, and just float past you and not have them know it. Did you know, Gary? Nope. Did you know, Linda? You work in Village Hall and you didn't know. Danny, did you know? You may have known.
Can I say, for me, no.
That's my point. That's my point.
No, no,
Second,
but
just
I
one second.
wanna, if I may.
just 1 second, just 1 second. I agree with you. It's important. It's not this body's job to catch what he caught. He reviewed it and he found it. And that's a good thing. No, I'm not disagreeing with you that it should not be known. I'm not disagreeing with you, Mac. I don't think, I don't think we're hiding things. Look, I think it was caught. I'd like to acknowledge the importance of the issue. I thank you, Mac, for bringing it up, and I thank the manager and the attorney for addressing the issue. I would like to move on, please.
Yes, please.
All right.
Can I just ask, please? You need to do it in a calm manner.
We
don't need to be smacking tables and raising our voice. Mac, we can hear you. It's okay.
All right.
And the truth is, we have a conversation. We all know what's going on. This is the first time we have the new manager and interim manager, temporary interim manager find stuff. So he's in the midst of building all this content, and we've all had the opportunity to discuss, and I think it was going to come at due diligent time. So all I'm saying is we're all aware of it. It's unfortunate what happened, and I think it was about to come out in a way that it fully provides visibility of what's going on. This is just not the manner. That's all I'm going to say.
I'd like to just point out there's something that Al and I talked about some more communication and transparency. And communication, to your point, Max, something we talked about is something that I've personally had discussions with about previous managers and something that Al and I have already talked about. And I'd like to see some improvements. And I think I like to see this as an opportunity to start anew and be better. I agree with you. We do need to be better. We need to be better every day.
Not look like we're hiding things.
No, I don't think, we're certainly not. I can only speak myself, but I don't think we're hiding things. I'm looking forward to improving the transparency and communication. And I appreciate the manager and the attorney's efforts, and I do appreciate you bringing it up, but I do want to move on. So if are there any commission reports before we move on to our consent agenda? No? Hearing none? Okay. So let's go ahead and move on to number 9, our consent agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Sorry.
Anybody has any items they want to pull?
Well, normally the way we do it is, the way that we've done it in the past is we open it up for an approval on motion. Normally, we would have done it on additions, deletions, and withdrawals, which I hadn't heard any. Certainly give people an opportunity now if we'd like to remove anything or move anything, but I would like to open the floor for a motion to approve the consent, and we can go from there. So do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Okay.
Second.
We have a second. Now, before we vote on it, is there any discussion on any items that we'd like to remove? Hearing none. Okay, so all in favor of approving the consent agenda?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. All right, so that gets us down to item number 10, our ordinances. Our first ordinance of the evening is item 10A, which is 2024-04. This is construction signage. Mr. Attorney, I'm jumping out ahead of you, but would you please introduce or read the item for us?
Yes, sir. An ordinance of the Village Commission of the Village of Biscayne Park, Florida, amending Appendix A, Part 3, Administration, Chapter 18, Construction of the Land Development Code of the Village of Biscayne Park by amending Section 18.1 Definitions and Section 18.9 Limitations on Parking of Construction Vehicles or Construction Employee Vehicles by defining construction activity and clarifying the parking limitations for construction vehicles and employee construction vehicles, and by adding Section 18.5.7 signage required, which requires property owners to place specified signage on construction fencing, providing for inclusion in the code, and Scrivener's errors, providing for conflicts, providing for severability, and providing for an effective date.
Okay, thanks, Brad. Do I have a motion and a second on the ordinance? Here, your mic.
I'll make a motion on the ordinance number 2024-04.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, before we move to discussion, I'd like to open up to public comment. If there's any public comment on this ordinance, now is the time.
Mr. Mayor, if I
Yes.
may for a moment.
Sure.
Pursuant to your land development code, any ordinance affecting the land development code has to go before your planning agency, the local planning agency, for their review. There is a memo that provided by the chair after the local planning agency considered the memo. And I don't know if the chair has any comment. Well, so
He's still here with us.
For this item?
For this item, yes, there was a memo provided, yes.
any amendment to the land development code has to be presented
It's not in the agenda, I believe.
Yeah, it is, actually, it is attached.
I have it on mine.
Where?
Oh, it's at the end. Sorry, I got it.
Ordinance 2024-04 signage on construction sites memo. PDRB. Correct? Sorry, 10:30. Any, outside of anything in the memo you'd like to present to us, Gage? Saying no? Thank you.
I'll just recap the memo.
Okay.
We did review it twice, in two of our meetings, and both meetings. The board just expressed some concern that there was no maximum size defined for the sign, and felt that something should be determined, and that that there also should be some language in there that the sign needs to be of a neutral palette, so that it's not, you know, bright orange or something, because again, there's nothing in the language that determines that it needs to blend in with its surroundings. And then there also was just concern about how is it mounted to the fence or whatever it is, so that if it won't get loose in the wind and, you know, become some kind of an eyesore. So that was just the general consensus of the board, that, you know, we made the recommendation that you consider those items.
Thank you, Gage. I know I offered public comment on it. I didn't see anyone here, and I don't believe we had anyone on Zoom. So if there is no public comment on this one, and having heard the Gage's comments, we'll go ahead and move this into discussion and open it up for any comments or anything that we'd like to hear before we vote.
I did read this. I was confusing it with the other one.
Okay. Any questions, any comments, any discussion before we move to vote?
Some of those things that Gage addressed, those would be things that the manager would take care of. Brad, this ordinance is just thing happen, and then the manager executes from there, right?
Yes. Manager would determine the size, all the things that were mentioned by Mr. Hartung.
Some of those other things are not addressed in other signage that's allowed or required by developers. For example, we don't have any language there about not using bright colors and stuff. I'm sorry. Right. So.
I know that was at least some of the benefit of the discussion that we recently had. Okay. Madam Clerk, if you please.
Hands back.
Anyway, I know that this was part of the discussion that we had the last time we talked about the ordinance, was that this would kind of be open to the manager's purview. We're just giving kind of some direction through this ordinance that this is what is being required and that the manager would accommodate. So if there's no real concern, I guess, or specific initiative to discuss those items and leave it to the purview of the manager.
Yeah, I tend to agree with the board that I have serious concerns on the size, and I would rather see it in our ordinance than leave it up to the interpretation of the manager, and color as well. I think that those things are important to have it spelled out in our ordinance, because these are the things that our manager follows. He follows the ordinances as a direction, whether it's this manager, another manager, whether it's 50 years from now, we abide by our ordinances. So to leave it open to interpretation to me is irresponsible. I think we should go along with the other established size requirements. We have real estate signs at 3 square feet, construction signs at 2 square feet. That to me is right in the line. Why should a sign from the village get 16 square feet when the construction sign is only 2?
So you would want it
only 3.
And you want it to be neutral colors.
And neutral colors, obviously.
Was that a proposal to add to the ordinance then?
Yeah, I would say
What is it specifically?
2 square feet and neutral colors would be my proposal.
How big is the real estate sign that goes, not realtor signs, but the ones that are required on,
Political or 3 square feet, real
the
estate.
ones that developers are required to put up?
Do you have that, Commissioner?
Construction sign, that would be 2 square feet.
2 square feet for construction, 2 square feet for real estate.
Real estate was 3.
Sorry,
Political sign was 3.
political sign was 3. Real estate, okay. And what's your proposal?
3 square feet, so that'd be 3 by 3.
No, 3 by 3 would be 9 square feet.
Sorry, you're right.
Yeah.
You're right. My
1.5 by 1.5.
Like 18 by 24, something like that. Okay, so I'm cool with 3 square feet and neutral colors.
Okay. I'd be fine with that.
So you.
Who made the motion?
It should be,
I believe the motion was
Amend it.
Commissioner Samaras. Your mic.
I amend the motion to what the commission discussed.
to reflect, what was it, is 3 square feet in neutral colors, correct?
3 square feet and what?
Neutral color.
And neutral colors, yes.
Okay,
Also recommend that we have the stuff, and I agree with you, in an ordinance and not always
That's what we're doing.
written ordinances should always be important.
okay. I'd support that. So, do we have a second on the motion?
You did it, Commissioner Kennedy.
But I'll second the amended motion.
Okay, is there any further discussion before we ask the clerk to call the roll? Hearing none, Madam Clerk?
Mayor Grout,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Huntington,
Yes.
Commissioner Amsler,
No,
Commissioner Kennedy,
Yes.
Commissioner Samara.
Yes.
The item passes on second reading 4-1.
Thank you, Madam Clerk.
Okay, Jonathan, if I may. I spoke with Brad about this, and Brad, I'm going to get this wrong, so I'm just going to introduce the idea and let you take it from there. Brad brought to my attention that there's a conflict with somewhere else in the code, and he's going to have to bring back section 18.9.1 that contradicts 753. There's some language things he'll have to clean up for us. It's something elsewhere in the code that he'll have to clean up. So Brad, what is that exactly? I'm sorry, I put you on the spot. You're going to bring it to us.
Your mic's off, Brad.
1 second.
Not that you need it while you think, but
Your mic, Dan. Got to be on record.
Quite honestly, I'm gonna have to go back through my notes,
Okay.
because
Well, you told me you'd bring it to us in
It was-
December or January. It wasn't urgent.
there was,
Word.
it was definitely an 18.9. I'll look through it and we'll bring it to you in December.
Okay, you asked me to remind you. I should have reminded you before the meeting.
I wish you did, because I don't have it in my notes.
okay. All right, thanks, Brad. And thanks, Commissioner. So let's go ahead and move on to our next ordinance, 10B, ordinance 2024-09. Brad, could you please introduce the ordinance for us?
An ordinance of the Village Commission of the Village of Biscayne Park, Florida, amending Chapter 2 Definitions and Chapter 8 Environmental Management of the Village's Land Development Code to provide for a definition of publication and to eliminate the requirement for newspaper publication, providing for inclusion in the code and scrivener's error, providing for conflicts, providing for severability, providing for an effective date. And Mr. Mayor, this also went before the the planning agency, and they found no issues, and they found in compliance with the comp plan.
Okay. All right, thanks, Brad. So do we have a motion and a second on?
I'll
the
make a
ordinance?
motion to approve ordinance number 2024 XX.
I'll second.
It's 09. And, okay, all right, so we have a motion and a second. Before we move into discussion, is there any public comment on the ordinance before we discuss? Seeing none. Any on Zoom? Also seeing none. Okay, so let's go ahead and discuss, and I'll just open the floor. You know what, Brad, okay, that's all right. Brad, could you just give us a very brief overview of the purpose behind this ordinance, please?
So you passed during consent a resolution that allows you to use the county's this county's publication website to publish legal notices and legal advertisements that are required by various statutes and various laws. For instance, when you advertise your budget, when you advertise ordinances, those generally what the village has done is they've advertised those in the Miami Herald. It used to be the Broward Review. Broward Review stopped publishing a hard paper, so you've been doing that through the Miami Herald. Due to a change in the Florida statutes, the legislature allowed this countywide website for legal publications and notices. So in anticipation of you approving the agreement that you did on consent, I went through your code to see what sections required specifically publication by newspaper. And this was the only code that we were able to find that needed a revision so that you could any notices under these provisions can be done through the county's website as well. And there was, in going through the code, there were some scrivener's errors that I noticed, which I cleaned up in 8.4.18, where basically it was just repeated the same words twice. So I just cleaned that up while we were doing this.
Okay. Thanks, Brad. Do we have a cost estimate on what this, just basically looking at a cost comparison between adopting this versus the traditional means of advertising?
So if you're using the county's website, it's a annual fee of $750 per user. So I think the last time we had discussed this, the former manager had suggested that there'd be 2 users. So it would be 2 licenses. So for $1,500 a year. And I would have to defer to Pamela, to the Madam Clerk, as far as the costs of,
I'm sorry, the ads go anywhere from 1,500 to 3,200.
One ad?
One ad.
Okay, so for the cost of one ad, we're getting the entire year. Okay,
And it's unlimited, right? It's unlimited number of ads we can put up for that. And that would include all of our budget and millage, noted, all of that. Okay.
anything that was legally required to be published in a newspaper can be published on that, on the website. There are certain requirements that we're going to have to meet in order to use that website with regards to notice that we're using the website, creating a registry. The statute does require to allow your residents, if they so desire, to request notices either by mail or by email, as opposed to just the public notice on the website. So there are certain requirements we have to meet, but yes, to answer your question, it's unlimited.
Say that last part again about people requesting emails.
So what the statute specifically provides is that if on an annual basis, you have to do a notification in the newspaper notifying your residents that you're using the county website. And in that notice, it has to contain a provision that a resident, if they so desire, can register. Well, 2 things. One, there has to be access to that website on your webpage and somewhere where it's conspicuously on your webpage. And the other thing is the notice that I'm talking about has to inform residents that if they so desire, they could receive the legal advertisements or the legally required public notices, either by mail or by email. And they have a registry, and it requires the village to keep an up-to-date registry of those individuals.
And if we missed that, if we posted something on the county site, but failed to email it to the people who were registered, would that meeting then not be properly noticed?
It would not be properly.
Ooh, we gotta be careful there.
That's correct.
well, and another point there about something you just mentioned too. If someone opts out of digital notice and is opting in for regular notice,
Mail.
mail notice,
Right.
is that handled through the county site or are we then responsible
That's
for the cost?
the village is going to do that. That's through the village.
Okay, so then we have to
Still
mail,
Still considerably cheaper than.
understood, I'm just understanding.
No, the village takes
Right.
on, it's the village's responsibility, as it always was, to publish the legal notices. This just and you can still use the newspaper. This didn't do away with newspaper publication. It's just,
An alternative option.
it's kind of modernizing the statute to the sense that you now have, there's an online countywide website where residents throughout the county can access various different municipalities and government agencies' notices. The county has been using it for quite some months now. And in the last few months, they've opened it up. They're ready to open it up now to municipalities to use in accordance with the statute.
Okay. Any other questions or discussion on the ordinance? Okay, hearing none. Madam Clerk, would you do the roll for us, please?
Mayor Groh,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Huntington,
Yes.
Commissioner Amsler,
Yes.
Commissioner Kennedy,
Yes.
Commissioner Samara.
Yes.
The item passes 5-0 on first reading.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. All right,
We can start doing this right away, Al, or do we still have some other things we need to do before Pamela can start using it?
Yeah,
I can answer that. You're going to have to do those notice requirements that we talked about. So we'll have to do one last publication or every year.
That will be the
Have to
old
do an
way.
annual publication first in the Miami Herald with the notice that I've described.
Mhm.
And then we'll have to give the option to the residents to opt into either the email or regular mail, create that registry. And once we've done that, then we can operate through the website.
Okay. All right, so that concludes item 10B. Let's go ahead and move on to 10C, which is ordinance 2024-10. And Brad, if you wouldn't mind, please reading this ordinance under the record for us.
An ordinance of the Village Commission of the Village of Biscayne Park, Florida, amending section 16.2, development permit, section 16.3, building permits of chapter 6, I'm sorry, let me start again. Section 16.3, building permits of chapter 16, permits and certificates of the Village of Biscayne Park Land Development Code to clarify development permit process and the role of the Planning and Design Review Board, as well as to ensure the provisions contained therein are in conformity with the Florida Building Code, providing for inclusion in the code, scrivener's errors, providing for conflicts, providing for severability, providing for repealer, and providing for an effective date.
Okay, thanks, Brad. And I know we had a memo from Planning Board in Gage on this one too.
Yes.
I didn't know if there's let me do this first, sorry. Do I have a motion and a second to approve the ordinance?
Motion to approve.
Okay, so before we have public comment, Gage, is there anything you'd like to cue us in on with respect to this ordinance?
Yeah, hi, good evening. Again, Gage Hartung, Planning and Design Review Board Chairman. So as you know, and what's called out in the memo, the Florida Legislature passed a new statute, HB 267, which requires a timeframe for the approval of building permits, which is they have the village has 5 days to review an application for completeness, and then it has 30 days to actually approve the building permit. With our current form of building department, planning design review board, that is just feasibly impossible considering that we have 2 meetings a month and, there's 14 days between meetings, so that we would be in violation of just the first one by doing that. So we had a meeting with the village attorney, and after his memo, he did a great memo outlining the new requirements with the village manager and the village building official, and we discussed ways that we could be in compliance with the legislature. We don't want to be non-compliant, but also in a way that would work with us, with our village the way we do things. One of the things that was noted was that the planning board really doesn't approve building permits. We approve the application and the letter of our land development code. We basically make sure that the applications are in compliance. So that being said, what we came up with was a way of making the defining the planning board as reviewing the I'm sorry, I just lost my train of thought. Viewing the application for not. I'm sorry, I just lost my train of thought. We're reviewing the planning and the development permit. That's what I can remember. So basically what we're doing is the planning board will now be reviewing development permits, which will be part of the application. So the time frame doesn't actually kick in until the application is completed and submitted. So the planning board will be put in front of the building application, if I'm explaining that correctly.
Essentially correct. I mean,
Yeah.
we're really not changing what the board did. We're just kind of changing terms so it's clear, it's clarifying what the board already did.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. And so essentially what they were really doing, as Mr. Hartung has said, is they weren't approving building permits. They weren't commenting on building permits. They were approving zoning and planning issues, which are really developmental permits in essence. So what we've done is redefine them and redefine the terms so that it's clear what the board actually does. For developmental permits, there is a Florida statute that has timelines for the approval process. The board already complies with those processes. And so and as Gage said, this is part of the building permit process as opposed to having, or from reading the code, making it sound like the board was involved in the actual approval of building permits.
Correct, yeah.
Just as clear as mud.
Sounds like the same.
Yeah, so
It sounds like the
So
same
we're just
thing.
like changing it's a terminology that if you look at it, it's already in the code. It's just we kind of cleared it up a little bit exactly what the responsibilities of the board is. And so like Brad said, we already are in compliance with the development part of the legislature. It's just, it helps us stay and not get in trouble with the state. So I'll stay up here for any questions you
I'm
might
gonna
have.
let Gage take my seat.
Gage, thank you. Brad, thank you. All right, so we'll go ahead and move this item to discussion, and I'll open it up to the commission for any discussion items we'd like to have on ordinance 2024-10. Hearing none? Looks like you did a great job explaining it then.
That was our opportunity to ask questions?
Oh, sorry.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
didn't hear anything immediately.
Sorry, I was
so-
looking at my notes. So, I understand what you guys did, and seems like a smart way around it. It sounds like we're doing a bit of an end run sort of around the system that's in place. Is this something that the state is aware that municipalities are going to be doing just kind of as a workaround?
It's really not a workaround. It's basically what we did is clarify exactly what your planning and design review board was already doing. It's just when we sat down and we looked at the House bill
Mm-hmm.
and we looked at the way the ordinance was written, the ordinance gave the impression that the board was approving building permits, which is not what the board's function is, not what, that's your building official does. Your development permit, as Gage has said, the development permit, which is planning, zoning, those types of matters, are part of the building permit process, but you're not ultimately approving the permit. So this really was not an end around. It's not a workaround. It was really clarifying what was already done so that it was clear. So somebody couldn't come in and say, oh, to the board,
Mm-hmm.
you weren't timely in approving this quote unquote building permit, which really wasn't a building permit.
Yeah. It just feels like it's not, and I'm not arguing this, I'm just asking. It feels like it's not aligning with the intent of what I thought. I'm sorry, guys, not feeling great. It feels like it's in conflict with the intent of what I understood that bill to be, which was to make it really easy for people to skate through this process.
Well, it still is. So it hasn't changed the effectiveness of the bill. So, because this is something that would have to be done anyway. So
Yeah.
if you're submitting a building permit, there are certain requirements in order for to complete the building permit. One of those requirements is that you have to demonstrate that your project meets the village's code as it relates to zoning. So that's part of the process of obtaining a building permit. So in order to have the determination made that the project complies with the code as it relates to zoning, they have to go through this process. It's part of the building process. So once you have a completed permit application, and part of that completed permit application is
Is the development?
went to this board, we went to the planning and design board.
That's right. You okay?
Oh, he's down on the ground. Holy shit.
Just in light of the circumstances here, I'd like to open the floor to a motion to move the items remaining to a next agenda and to adjourn. Do I have a motion?
I make a motion.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.